Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me this week, he's staying up late, and I'm grateful for it. James Tinsdale. Sorry, James. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. I've got my Monster
Oh,
Ultra with me at the ready. I'm ready to go.
there you go. We are going to be breaking down the Stormcast Battletome 2024. Very excited. James has some experience. I haven't got to play the new Battletome yet, so I'm going to rely heavily on James. Though, of course, I've read through it and I played the index. But we're going to have some opinions. We're going to talk about what's going on. First off, of course, though, we'll start with just a wee scotch of news, as Vince remembers he's supposed to have his piece of paper out that he writes down timestamps on. Okay, just a wee scotch of news here, because it is very brief. There's really not much in the way of news for AOS this week. First off, we've got a rumor engine. Hey, there it is. It's some kind of lightning-y, electric-y, shooty, chargy thing that's probably 40k. So, great. Good stuff. Happy to see it. The funny thing was, in a sort of reveal this week that had nothing to do with AOS, there had been a little stick arm sometime back in the rumor engines. James, I don't know if you remember this, but it looked like a little weird stick arm. Okay, like it was like a stick, just a stick, and it looked like a snowman's arm, but like that's completely silly. Turns out, nope, it's a snowman's arm. So hey, that's cool. Just it's like for I don't remember what it was, an old world thing or something, but yeah, it was a snowman. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about just briefly, really no other news from them, but this weekend is War in the Heartlands. We mentioned it a little bit when you and I were talking beforehand. I'm excited to see what shows up there, James. What are you looking forward to? What do you expect to see at War in the Heartlands? Because they'll have the updated, rules, post battle scroll, all that stuff. What do you think you're going to see?
I know a few people playing, so I know what they're taking. So I would expect to see Zinch. I would expect to see Stormcast. I would probably expect to see Sylvaneth on the rise, right? They've got a lot of pieces waiting to jump
Absolutely.
out that I don't think people have played against, which does make a difference in fourth. And then you probably got your mid-card defenders. I don't think you'll see Iron Jaws, you
I mean,
know?
I've tried since the battle scroll, and it's not better. It was not fixed.
No, but you do get to shout war a little bit more than you used to, which is fun for a hot minute, and then you sort of lose your voice after game two.
Sure.
Um, but I would say those armors predominantly, and then Lumineth obviously is always relevant. We'll have
Yep.
to see. I think they'll shift towards Foxes and Sentinels. I know they will. Foxes and Sentinels, which actually might be worse. Be careful what you wish for. But at least the Dawn Riders fought you honestly. They might have to charge you and delete you, but at least they're doing it up
Yeah,
front,
they're
close
like
and
a they're like
personal.
an army that wants to move around and play Warhammer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to cut someone, like, and it's good to do that personally. Whereas the Sentinels will kill you from a mile away, and that's maybe not as fun. So, but Lumineth as well, right? When the Foxes are
Absolutely.
ever present,
How much do you
that'd be
think
my
we'll
guess.
see Nighthaunt hurt? They still going to be a threat?
Depends because power gamers jump off, right? So you lose that kind of button because they've been nerfed, but I think they'll still stabilize and they'll probably still be a very solid 4-1. I agree with you. Like they still have quite a few rules they break, right? Which I think
Right.
good players will take advantage of. Doesn't feel great when you go in with your Croxagore and they kill one or two models, right? Because the rent. That doesn't feel great. But at the same time, I do think Nighthaunt are in that way position where they'll move away from Hexwave and Blade Guys. So that it's like, are the Harridans and the Grimgas Reapers good enough? If that's to be the list, right? And are people going to run that?
Okay.
Obviously, Lady O is always present. You're going to have the Dreadblade Harrows, still really good. Um,
Yep.
just how committed are those power hungry gamers? I'm looking at Phil Marshall, square in the eye. How committed are you to that Hexwave spam? So we'll see. But it's exciting to see it, right? We'll get some good data this weekend.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing what comes out and how it all shapes up. And that's basically the news. It's super quick this week. You gotta love it, which is good because that lets us get right in quickly into other stuff. So let's do a little pick of the week here. James, I'll let you share yours in just a second. I'm gonna jump off first. If you love Stormcast reviews and you're not gonna get enough from us, well then let's throw it over to our man AOS Coach, who did an excellent review on Saturday of the changes. And so also with a James, I believe, if memory serves. So I guess only James are allowed on Stormcast reviews now as guests. That's the rule going forward. But It's excellent. You can find it linked below. Go check it out. All right. What about you, sir? What would you like to share with everybody or boost out there?
So I'm on topic as well because I couldn't be as. I know Tom is usually over prepared, so I had to sort of keep the standard. I'm. I So for me, it's something called the Stormkeep on YouTube. It's a Stormcast
Yes.
channel.
Yes.
They do a great job of articulating and analyzing Stormkeep, similar to Aethercast with KO, right? The Stormkeep guys. I've recently been listening to them just to get absorb as much context and experience from their playing as possible. So I would highly recommend people go check it out. I'm sure they're going to do a new review of the book very soon. I'm sure they're waiting for points. But yeah, the Stormkeep on YouTube.
I love it. And yes, I think truly, James, we live in a magical time. Like what a time to be alive. We live in a time where there can be a successful podcast we all listen to about not just wargaming, not just Age of Sigmar, but specifically the Stormcast in Age of Sigmar. Like, that's amazing. I love people putting their passion on display. And yeah, Stormkeep is great. Aethercast is great. I want to see the full panoply, right? Of podcasts for every single army. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to start Ratcast to go with my Ratcast. Maybe that's what it'll be. The second thing. Just talk about Skaven. Vince talks about Skaven for 30 minutes once a week. Absolutely.
I would still listen to that though, just to be honest. I would still listen to it. So I'm a junkie for anything. I'm going to release a Nighthawk one on Halloween called The Haunting.
There you go. There you go. Nice.
There you go.
Solid. That's a really good name for that. That works. Like, that super works. Plus, you get people who think you're doing like ghost story stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
I've even got a name for my super chat. It could be called The Haunted, right? We've got a lot going on.
Nice. Yes, as we get going, thank you for that's a good mention there. Don't forget, hit like, want to see your comments as we go throughout this. Tell us what you think about the new book and all of that as we review. And don't forget, super chat and all that stuff is on. So, hey, if you want to throw a couple bucks at the channel, it's always appreciated deeply. Right now, we're still collecting for the Get Tom a New Microphone Fund because he's so, I don't know. It's a problem. Anyways, well,
I actually just jump in. I have a challenge for the super chat.
Oh, I'm ready.
If we can do that, right? What do super chat think is the most neglected or likely to be the least used unit in the Stormcast tome? Right. Ooh. Maybe give some suggestions during the show, and we can see if we can comment or give some use cases for them. But there's so many units, right? We can't cover them all in depth. It'd be fun to hear what the chat think is like the most. This will never.
Never on the table. I've got some thoughts. Yes, I love it. I love it. What is the bottom of the barrel of the already deep barrel? Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, I love it. Mr. J says Tom's mic is trashy. Always sounds like he's calling from Oscar the Grouch's can. Yes, and directly under Oscar, I might add. He needs to, like as though Oscar is sitting on him. Okay. So let's talk about some hobby time, shall we? James, what have you been working on, man? What have you been hobbying? What have you been painting?
Well, on brand to my Stormcast, I've gone for, I don't know if this is going to work, but I've got my Celestial
Vindicators?
Yeah, yes. That's right. And obviously I'm painting Raptors. I've been painting a unit people might not have heard of called Vanquishers.
Never heard of them.
No.
They're in the book, you say? Is this a new unit?
Well, you might soon. But then the real one I've got here is the Knight Arcanum. I've just started to work on. So I am working on my Stormcast. I have built Karazai and Undercoated, but I'm sort of using that as a reward to myself.
That's the right strategy.
Once I've done everybody on legs, we move to wings. Yeah. And that is going to be very much like you would eat a KFC bucket, right? Start with the legs, finish with wings. That's what I'm doing.
This is crazy. That is crazy what you just said, because this is now a chicken-based podcast. I'm exactly the opposite. I say I'm a dark meat chicken man. So I'm starting on anything else, anything that isn't a leg. Those legs are treasures to be saved for the end. That's the juicy, delicious, moist treat at the end of the rest of the chicken. But hey, that's all right. We can both agree you save Karzai for last. That I'm with. All right, myself, finally finished up all my projects. Oh, goodness gracious me. You know what I just realized? I had meant to do something and totally forgot. Sorry, let me get this over here. Apologize, everyone. One moment, please. Hold, please. I, right now, have been working on a little clan rat boy, but I realized I wanted to share something with everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Hopefully this opens up okay. Yeah, there we go. So I'm working on a little clan rat. He's my reward. But we had the boys here this weekend for VinciCon. It was great. And my hobby over the weekend, I painted actually many things. There'll be a video on it. It was actually just an intense hobby weekend, 4 days of straight painting. But I painted up the Witchhorn from the Brahm series of Mindwork Games. This is a fig I've always deeply loved. I just think this is like such an amazing piece of art, and I had the bust, and it had been sitting there for a long time, and I said, you know what, let's get this thing painted. And so I went, I think, a very unusual direction with it, as far as like sort of choices and colors and things like that go. And I was very happy with how it came out. Lots of tweaking over the weekend, amongst other projects that I also worked on. But yeah, I wanted to share that with everybody. So there we go. I don't know if she'll go anywhere or compete anywhere. Probably something, maybe. I don't know. But all in all, pretty proud with how she came out.
That looks lovely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I recently played Silent Hill 2 last night, and you know the pyramid head that she has?
Yes.
I was in Brighthaven Hospital last night, if you know, you know. And that brings it right back.
There you go.
I'm like reliving
chasing you in your nightmares. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm back on that clan rat train. I've got this little boy almost done, and then there's just more of his friends behind him. It's a clan ratathon. Okay. So we'll put that away. There we go. But thank you for indulging me, everyone. Yeah, I was just really happy with how she came out, and she was really, really fun. And it had been a while since I'd been working on a very long project for someone's box art that I had gotten to just sort of like unwind and go nuts. And this was just an intense sort of 4 days of painting. So it felt good. Stretch the legs. With that being said, James, let's talk about Stormcast. Okay. Record time. We are making progress here. Okay. So let's talk about Stormcast. I'm going to give you my summary, and then I want yours. So for everybody, my summary is overall the book has options, but I think it'll struggle to be consistently on top tables. Like, I don't think we're dealing with a new 60-65%er here is what I mean by that. Like, we'll have some 5-0s. It'll get there. But I think you're going to see the win percentage tamped down by two things. One, there's a lot of missed units in this book. Like, that is to say, like, units that just have no actual play, but people are going to use them because they like the figs. Two, Stormcast has always had a very wide player base, especially of newer players. And three, I do think there are a few harder counters out there that if you run up against, especially with a skilled player piloting them, you're going to be in a rough spot. Because they are relying quite heavily on a fairly elite high armor army, and there are some things that just will counter that out. But yeah, again, but they've got tricks. I think they will be strong. For my money, I think this is overall like a good book, and what I wish more books looked like in many regards, as far as some of the war scrolls and the armies that I think about playing. But I think we could, but it's got a lot of weaknesses. I don't know how else to say it. That's basically what I would say. I think the new options are largely uninteresting. There are exceptions. We'll talk about two of them that I think have some gas depending. I think there's some very sneaky tech in here. I think Johnnies are welcome in this army. I think you can play a very techy game with Stormcast. I think the dragons, the Crazy Brothers are back. They're fully in. Lots of potential in the Crazy Brothers. And I think their manifestations are a joke that somebody wrote in there as a joke. I don't think anybody actually expected people to take those. But I think as you know, their spell lore and their prayer lore are still consistent. And as I said originally, I think they're both decent. So, all right, that's my read. James, what? Any umbrage with any of my items I've listed here, or how you feel about everything?
But I'm slightly biased because I keep winning with my Stormcast. I'm waiting for someone to counter me. I'm looking at you, Richie. But I think Stormcasts are interesting in this edition because they're like an early out of the gate bird in the cage. If armor values are to be pointed with value, so models that have a 3 up cost a little bit more than a 4 and a 5 up, does that hold up against the rend in the game? Because as we spoke
Right.
about before the show, there's a lot of damage in the game. So if you get through armor, you're doing a lot of damage, right? Recursion is still a thing in the game, of course, but it's way watered down than it was. Most armies aren't bringing back sword-like level recursion, so Stormcast armor has to hold, otherwise the army itself just will really, really suffer. If everyone
Yep.
starts getting Ren 2 plus anti-infantry, Ren 2 plus anti-cav, then Stormcast are going to be in such a tough spot because all of a sudden the 3 up, 2 attacks, 3s, Ren 1, 2 just aren't going to matter because you're just not going to survive long enough to contest objectives, score battle tactics, or pressure some of the higher elite units and hang in there with your like defense. I do think there's elements to like the manifestations are probably forgettable, right? Oh, definitely. Um, I do look at the prayer law before the new terrain piece came out. Relicta was a high importance. Everyone wants translocation, right, in both turns.
Right.
Now you have that terrain piece.
Yep.
Do you move towards wizards with the D6 charge? Because I think that helps Stormcast a lot. So I think maybe the spell law indirectly got a boost. But I do agree with most of your points, and I do think it can be a techie army because you're limited with what you can take, right? So you
Yep.
general construction is you're gonna have 2 hammers between 5 and 400 points each, 500 points of support and tech, and about 2 units of 250 points each, being wherever they are, your foot troops. So and the new Ruination Chamber is probably a miss. It's a shame. Um, but I do think for the most part, I agree with most. Yeah, the dragons as well, right?
Yeah.
Might be back, which is fun. We all remember their double move, right? I think I ran that list. I ran 10 dragons at the Worlds when England won it, when we won. And that list was insane. I would move 10, move again, be 3 away, breath, charge, fight. Insane. Imagine if you power through now. I do think though there are tools in the core rules that Stormcast can actually take quite advantage of because of their battle traits. We'll get to that in a little bit perhaps, but overall I think the army's pretty solid. I would say A tier. But for me, getting to your point about the vast, amount of players that play Stormcast, I think if you're a keen Stormcast player, you have to constantly have a read on the meta and see what units you should be going into your book that you may never
Yep.
have heard of and using. You might not want to use some of the units, but they might really hard counter some of the meta units. And that's something Stormcast have in such a deep bench.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
right now, for instance, my example will be Vanquishers. You'd never have used them previously. The Hunt Infantry on a crazily good scale, right? And right now they're really relevant. So units like that you have to constantly be aware of as a Stormcast player and think, okay, I really do want to take 10 dragons, but that's probably not a good idea. So what should I be doing? And I think it's a constant process that you have to evolve with every battle scroll and every update. That'd be my little high level take.
I love it. I agree with you completely especially on the bench part. One of the big advantages to this army is that it can go, as we said right now, the meta is very, anti-infantry, I guess, to just put a pin right on it, right? And that's fine. Something like, you can still have vanquishers, but you can also dip into, you have plenty of cav options, you have plenty of monster options. Like there's other places you can go that if things get too dark in one area of the meta that you can shift around. And a lot of books don't have that option, right? You look at somebody like FEC and it's like, well, it's probably infantry. I mean, you're not going to build your whole army out of Morbeg Knights. Let's just be real here. Okay, like
Some will
that's not
try,
it's not a winner.
right,
Yeah.
Phil? Look at you, Phil. 18 more bags. I'm looking at you. But I do
Absolutely.
I'm just at that point. I think Stormcast as well, we'll get to this in a bit later, is they play battle tactics differently when you build your list. Because I know you like prospectors.
I do.
Stormcast don't actually need them. And we can probably dig into that a little bit later, but they actually approach battle tactics differently, which I do think is a strength for them. Because they don't have to pay points for units like Aether Wings or things that want to be on the flank. So that does
Right.
give you a bit more points to buy units you've never heard of.
That is an advantage. Yes. I've tried a couple of I've been playing around with builds without the same prospectors in a couple armies, and it's rough in most armies. It really is, because you just don't have the options, right? You're very hemmed in.
Yeah,
Okay.
like my example was my
Okay.
example would be like Soul Blight has to have felt bats, right? It has to
Right.
have prospectors because they don't have that initial maneuverability that Stormcast do. But in Stormcast, I actually find myself doing War of the Realms a lot, the quarters, because I don't need to do flanks, so I do that instead. I can do things like fight with two. Do not wave is really easy to get, right? And I'm
Yep.
doing that anyway. These little things you can do with Stormcast that don't require you to be out on the flanks because you're scoring 3 or 4 anyway.
Right.
Things like, is it laid over tyrant, the order one where you kill a monster, right? That's something that's actually quite easily done with raptors, right? You can easily do that in against most armies. So they've got options that they don't have to have 5 liberators just walking on the flank, waving and taking photos and signing autographs. So like at the same time, it's an interesting army composition because you have very limited models, right, to work with. You don't actually it actually hurts a lot to do that if you have to. But we can get into it later. But I'm
No,
waffling
absolutely.
now.
It's
There you
good.
go.
We'll pass through, as as James said, like, this is big. It's going to be the same format as the Skaven. We're not going to touch on all the scrolls or stuff like that. If things are the same, they're the same as what the index was. We talked about them before, but we'll like we'll talk into those things a lot, especially as we talk about the new units and where they fit in, and stuff like that. Demeep says, I've pressed like. Have you? Yeah, it's a great question. Have you pressed like yet? Yeah, hit like, hit subscribe, hit things that make dings, be cooler. And yeah, that's absolutely so. And the super chat's out there. All right, let's see if these let's see what we got for as far as changes go. By the way, my changes slide is my favorite piece of Stormcast art, like, ever. This Liberator with a broken shield. This rules. How did we ever get away from this? I look at this, and then I look at this. I'm just saying.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I watched last week when you talked about term covers. And when we watched AOS 3, they talked about the Grim Dark and how awful it was to be in the Mortal Realms. And those AOS 3 covers, the Nighthaunt cover and that cover, they kind of go back to that kind of tone, right? And that theme. Whereas I saw the Slaves to Darkness one, it looked like a caricature of like a
Right.
cartoon, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw the Stormcast one, and I was like, that guy doesn't look like he's been killed 100 times. Doesn't
No.
look like he's having a bad day, and the sky's blue.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think I've seen a blue sky in the Mortal Realms. What realm's he in? Because I don't know. I just don't know why we've moved back so far to such a platonic, welcome entry level to any kid on the shelf cover when we had this in AOS 3, which is way more adept and advanced, right? And also has a lot more connotations, right? Like this is the one you're showing now is way more war torn and
Yeah, yeah.
emotional than the one.
Oh, yeah.
The one I'm looking at now is just devoid of anything other than it reminds me of. Do you remember the original Stormcast first home? When it was just platonic, they didn't really know what to do with them. They
Yeah,
didn't
sure.
have much lore. It was like, here's your Space Marine,
Yes.
but it's day one Space Marine, and you're like, okay, I feel like you're making great progress. And I see the Ruination Chamber in the trailer, and I see that front cover, and I'm like, they've not been into Vermintide. Tell you that right now. They haven't seen
That's right.
Skaven in the purest form.
That's exactly right. It's
So there
perfectly
you go.
summarized. Yes. Nailed it. I couldn't put my finger on it, but you know what? You just actually summed it up completely. I fully support and send everything just said. Yes. 1,000%. That's exactly right. It's the emotion, it's the vibe, it's the tone of the world that this art captured that you don't feel on these new covers. Yes. Yep. Yep. There it is. That's it. That's what it is. All right. Cool. Let's talk changes. All right. So first off, thank you, AOS Coach, who did the hard work for me. I could have went through and tried to figure this all out on my own, but that's not what I'm about. Instead, I watched Coach, and he had this wonderful slide, so I stole it. Thanks, Coach. Go subscribe. He's awesome. He's linked down below in the chat, so make sure you're giving Coach a sub and thanking him for his awesome work. All right, so I would say not a huge number of changes here. Thunderhead Host, adding the condition of non-beast. The Shock and Awe is now each time this unit is set up using the Signs of the Storm ability, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target this unit for the rest of the battle round. In addition, Each time a friendly Stormcast Eternals unit is set up wholly within 12 inches of this unit using the Scions of the Storm ability, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target that unit for the rest of the battle round. Gained the additional boost of the second paragraph. The Envoy of the Heavens was friendly Stormcast Eternals units, which is just a cleanup. It amazes me how often they missed stuff like this, right? Where you could be using your abilities on other army stuff. We are 4 editions in and pretending like allies and regiments of renown and mercenary giants and all of this stuff still doesn't exist. But, you know, okay, we fixed it. Great. The Everblade's Comet went to a casting value of 8. I'm sorry. I had a seizure. Because my brain wouldn't accept that information. That endless spell is not good. And the fact that it's on an 8 when so many of the really good endless spells in the generic manifestations are on 7, my brain can't make it work, James. It can't square these two pieces of information.
No, and I've played so many games of AOS, and the best example I could give you of how much I respect the Everblade's Comet is the last time I played somebody who brought the Stormcast manifestations. When I read their list at the start of the game, and I was like, "You got the manifestations?" He went, "Yeah." I immediately put my beer down and thought, "This man's here to play." You know what I mean? If you're bringing those manifestations, you must have a serious plan, because I thought they were trash. So they might not be. Turns out they were.
Yeah,
they were trash.
Yeah, they're trash.
They were trash.
I'm sorry. What is Shackles cast on? Okay. Anyways, the Lord Celestant on Dracoth, the weapon of legend, is now crit auto wound. It was anti-infantry. Okay. Like, okay.
Gonna get one that's attack through.
Yeah, it's like, I guess we had to make that guy worse for reasons. I'm not sure. Was he? Whatever. All right, it doesn't matter. You weren't taking him before. You're not taking him now. It doesn't actually matter. The Praetors, Soulbounded, lost this unit. Can use this ability while it is in reserve. But that should be restored, right? Because that was what shipped in the last one, right?
Yeah, but I think it's just because this book was printed a while ago, right? So
that's what I'm saying.
It was updated digitally. I don't think that will hold. I think the intent is that they're able to do it from reserve, right? In the same way that the GHB allows you to pick a honor guard unit that's in reserve, I don't think they want to shut off some army's ability to deploy off the board, right?
Because initially in the index you couldn't. Then they digitally changed it, said you can. Then the book that was exactly already printed just went back to the original index printing. I would expect if we get an update at the end of this month or whatever, because they've said we'll get monthly FAQs, I would expect that will be flipped back again. So
they may as well clean it up, because what will happen otherwise is Karazai will run off. You'll have 3 Praetors stood next to the new terrain piece, and then you'll pick them up and you'll put them next to him.
Right.
Rather than bring them down from the sky, you're going to shoot them through a door, right? Either way, they're going to be confused when they land, but they'll see Karazai when they get there.
That's right. If Kelly says, if I use both of the new big birds and the Stormcast manifestation lore for the disc, am I honorary Zinch? Maybe. That's the amount of bird and disking there does, I think, mostly make you a Zinch player. Yes, I think that is true. You just got to figure out how to get the dice. Okay. The Vanguard Raptors with Hurricane crossbows. I'm not going to read this whole freaking ridiculous thing. But the rule was rewritten. It used to be +1 to wound for this unit shooting attacks if the target unit is in combat with friendly Vanguard chamber units. So it is different now. Cool. Aetherwings move slightly faster. I am insulted by anything that moves 14 inches. I just want this to be known. Okay, I'm deeply insulted by this. And I'll tell you why, James. Because everything in the armies that I played that had speed to them, everything was reduced in speed. My Mega Boss Maw Crusher went from 12 inches to 10 inches. Right? My Giants all went down to 10 inches. All my Slanesh units went down to 10 or 12 inches.
But I thought Slanesh got a boost, right? They got a really cool allegiance ability they use, right?
That's right. That's what we got instead. Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot.
There's always a trade-off.
Yeah, that's the trade-off. So I'm just saying, if we're going to give things 14-inch move, I want in on this action. I want either less corruption or more chance to participate in it. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, it feels like Slanesh should just have move 14 a lot, but they don't.
but they don't. Or
No.
maybe like some run and charge or free counter charge or whatever. There's lots of things we could have written, but instead we wrote a goofball rule that gives your opponents dice. Why not? Okay. The Lord Relictor isn't Ruination, unlike what people have been speculating. Were you surprised
Mhm.
by that? Did you expect him to come out and be
No,
with a new
I
model?
no, I think because he's one of their best priests, and you want
Yep.
him to be available because his keyword bingo in Stormcast book, like a lot of the chamber stuff in terms of regiments, which we don't have to, we live in a regiment world. I wasn't surprised by that at all, and I think you could tell his model was only available in that start collecting box. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember, like
Oh yeah.
you
Oh,
couldn't
believe
buy
me, I know.
him.
Dude, I got so many of those for like $1. I was seriously paying like $1 to $2 per Lord Relictor back when
Yeah,
AOS launched, and people were just bidding those things out and selling them. I have a stack of those boys. I loved them.
yeah. I wasn't surprised by him. I was surprised the Palador unit wasn't. I was surprised they were Warrior Chamber, because I really felt you could give them a cav unit, right? Like
Right.
But anyway, I wasn't surprised. Glad that he's not. He's an amazing model, and I'd hate to lock him behind the chamber, right? That you're just not playing.
That's
Now
right.
everybody can buy him, everybody can paint him, and I already look forward to seeing all the sick, cool, different color armor and robe,
Oh my god.
conversions that people do. And he looks like a candidate for like some golden demon, some person to get hold of him and
Somebody's
do
got to
some
do incredible
incredible
in Demon, right?
diorama with him, like in the gates of the Zir with like lightning coming out of his eyes and everything. I'm just excited to see that model get painted by somebody who is, excited to paint it. So yeah, I'm not surprised, but I'm also very happy to see that he's not because relation keyword is not a good one.
There you go. That's fair. So like, I mean, truly, he is the winner of the best. But somehow he has simultaneously won best new model and most improved model. He won both of those awards at the same time. He's sweeping the competition. He can't be stopped. Like the new Lord Relictor is wild. He's also winning 40K awards somehow, like for best looking, whatever their
It's
priest people
Chaplin.
are called. What's it? Yeah, chaplains. There you go. Thank you. Yes, he's not even in that game and he's winning their awards. Such is the power of a crossover star like the Lord Relictor. Um, so overall, do you find any of these changes highly impactful to how you were making your list? Did anything here surprise you or make you go, make you
So
react in some way?
it's more what's not here, right? Like
Sure.
the long strike raptors not being changed as opposed to the Giselles helps. Now look, they've probably got 10 points, whatever that's going to happen there, but the rules stay the same, which I think is key because you really need that unit to be good for the army to perhaps be able to pressure units from afar. There's nothing really else that does it. I hear people that say ballistas, but that's not true. The Raptors are probably the ones what you're always going to take. So the fact that absent from the list is good. I'm not surprised by the Hurricane crossbows either. That just cleans that up. I think that makes that unit less
Right.
oppressive to play against. I think that's fine. All those people that are running the Hurricane crossbows probably happy about it. Both of them.
Sure.
And then it's the shock and awe as well was cleaned up.
Yeah.
The one that really hurts me is the Blaze Comet. I know we joke about it, but honestly, you know, I know this was written before, so I think I would have not be surprised if this was changed to a 6. You've got to have some incentive to take these manifestations, right? To buy, if you own them, you're probably disappointed that you don't have one, especially when you consider everybody's now got universal manifestations.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that one's cruel, but nothing surprised me really there. There's a couple I would love to have seen,
Okay.
but then you just move to a wish listing space, right? And it's like
Sure.
that can just go into a black hole. So obviously, I mean, there's one, the Celestin Prime is something I would love to have seen here with some changes, but there's not to be. There's a lot of units I'm sure people feel strongly about, would love changes on that are absent. It's a shame, but I also understand you can't charge people dollars a month ago for an index and then give them a book 4 weeks later that's completely different. So this is just the world we live in and the world of printing.
I mean, I think they could have. Here's what I'll say: if you improved my scrolls, I would have like I wouldn't care about money I spent on index cards or whatever since they made the PDFs free. I told people back in the day do not buy the index cards because they are like to be changed. I wish they would change them. Like make the changes that are the smart changes. Completely agreed with you on the Prime. Just go back to the Comet. If it like still pulsed like it used to, if it did some kind
Yeah.
of real mortal wounds in a 12-inch pulse or something, it still wouldn't be amazing, but it would be better because at least you could drop it on like an objective that they're really trying to hold. if it like pulsed in both hero phases or something, right? And then I'd be like, okay, cool, it's actually damaging in this constrained area, but it can't move, it just sits there, right? So they can just walk away. But then that's like some kind of, again, extended board control you've got for them to help to try to like get them to push out of a location, which I think is very useful in Stormcast. And yet we just didn't do that. So instead it's just still bad and casts for a much higher value.
Yeah, and I break it down a little bit because if we talk about the comet, for me, I wanted a zonal tool. I wanted something that
Right.
either is linked to one wizard in the book who can either summon it automatically. You still play, you still have to bring the lore, but he can summon it, or they can summon it, automatically once per game. But it comes down and automatically unbinds manifestations within 12. When it hits the
Oh, that'd be
floor,
amazing. See,
it
that'd be
just shuts them
amazing.
down. It doesn't do damage, but it's like a defensive tool, right? Because if your opponent banishes it, or you can do it again later in the game. It gives you a tool to say, I'm out, because you don't have wizards in this army, right? You don't have loads of banish rolls. So it would give you a reason to say, okay, I would love to take Gnashing Jaws or Morbid, right? Whichever one's popular. But if I take my Comet, and I can guarantee it, then I can shut down whatever Morbid stuff you set up, whatever Gnashing Jaws are coming my way, and I can bring a Knight Arcanum, and I can have real manifestation defense. So I don't have to play that phase of the game for 20 minutes every turn whilst I drink my coffee. So I think that could have been a cool tool, but there doesn't really seem to be any sort of thought like that. And like you say, it
Agreed.
doesn't even pulse anymore. Like the pulse was okay because it kind of incentivized you to get rid of it.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Or move
I don't
away or something, but to interact in some way, right? As opposed to now it just like lands and maybe they move their wizard slightly to the right so they don't take the penalty to cast. Like, oh no.
I had to read it twice, and I was like, okay, so I'm not taking that.
Right. Yeah.
It must be something else. Like,
It's just, is there, hold on, maybe there's another page. Is there something on the back of this? Somewhere I'm missing it. Nope, nothing
and
there.
then I saw
Okay.
the 8, and I thought that meme that Havel always posts. We're shooting the guy in the couch. She's dead.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
just leave it alone. Come on.
Yes.
So yeah, there you go.
All right. Let's talk new stuff, shall we? Let's talk about the new toys, the new tools that they're getting here. Okay. So, new stuff. Well, we've got to start with our new impressive centerpiece model, Iridan the Witness. Now, again, we don't know points on this stuff yet, sadly. But we can assume. I mean, just looking at how they point things and how they think, we'll make some guesses. But yes, no idea on points, so this is just guessing. And they are going to be somewhere in the range of 350 to 450 points because that's what these things always are. That would be my particular guess. You feel I'm anyway off on that?
No, and I would say the comparison points Physic, right? When they showed
Yep.
Physic, they're like, here's your prayer to Priest 2. How cool is it? And everyone's like, oh, it's amazing. And then it's okay. Stormcast get one as well. And then they show Iridan and you're like, amazing. And oh, he's Priest 1. Okay. And then you're
Right.
like, he's probably going to sit around 350, 400, slightly less than Physic, right? Who's 450. So I'd say you're probably a safe guess if it was me. Plus he's a 3-up save, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I think 3-up, no ward, 12 health, 12-inch move. The prayer is their prayer is okay. The prayer of witness, it's not bad. It's okay. I'm not going to give it an incredible thing, but it's.
But why is the
okay.
ruination chamber keyword there? You know what I mean? Like why?
Yeah,
I know
sure.
he's ruination chamber. But when you wear a hood and you're that mysterious and you've got a thing on your literal frame that has smoke in it, which I hate smoke effects, by the way. I don't know how you feel about smoke effects on models, but
I
I
hate them.
just hate artificial smoke.
I
It's
hate
why do we
air. Stop modeling air. That's
yeah,
very.
why
I'm
are we
very.
doing this?
Yeah.
If you want to do some OSL, if you want to do some glow effects, there's loads of things you can do. And guess what? You could also make your own smoke if you wanted to add it to your model. But please don't. I mean, it's so bad. But yeah, I was really. I know he's Ruination Chamber, and they want him to be, but it's just why couldn't his prayer heal always 6-up ward be for any Stormcast unit?
Right.
Like, is it really that egregious? That'd be my question. Like,
I agree. I
sounds
mean,
like
I'll cut straight to the heart of the matter. I think Iridan's bad. That's what it is. Assuming that this model comes in around like 400 points, it's going to be the only thing it's going to witness is the shelf. Like, it's my honest answer.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because you look at this guy, right? And you think previously you could have made a translocation argument, maybe. Okay, he's translocation, he's survivable, he's 12 wounds on a 3-up, he moves 12, he can be anywhere, he can reposition, cheeky redeploy. Now you think I can just do that with my terrain piece.
Right.
I really don't like the fact that the once per army reaction is the resistance roll. You do it once, and you're like, but if I take Ruination Chamber, that means the other guys don't do it,
Right.
which is not ideal because you can almost bait that as an opponent, right? I'm going to shoot Irrident. I might use my resistance roll with this magic or whatever ability, and you don't use it on your reclusions, and it's like now they're just free to be attacked.
Yep.
You know
That's right.
why that?
When what
Why
you
that
want to
roll
be
isn't a
using the
2-up, I don't
Ruination
know.
Chamber ability on is like prosecutors that are absorbing covering fire. Like, that's what you're
Exactly.
wanting
That's
to be using
exactly
it.
the user case, right? Like the
Yep.
covering fire. And why is it a 4-up?
Sure.
Because my hope for this model was if you take him, right, Ruination Chamber units on the board get a resistance roll of a 2-up. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Because you're only using
Like
it
some
once.
actual
Only one
bonus,
unit
some
does it.
reason to lean into
Yeah.
Ruination. Yeah.
So as long as he's alive, my prosecutors or my fusions get a once per turn 2-up shrug, right, against non-core. And that you think, ooh, that wouldn't be too bad, right? But that's not what it is. So
Yep.
anyway.
It's a skip. Super cool model. But it's
Yeah.
a skip. That's
Yeah.
the reality. Like, you're just I imagine that Irridan won't be that much different than Ionis, and I just think Ionis is all like would be the thing you'd take 10 times out of 10. Even if this was 350 and Ionis was 400, I'd still take this. Or sorry, I'd still take Ionis, sorry. All right. Cool. Tornus. Tornus the Redeemed. This cool thing. Like, this our redeemed chaos hero person guy. First of all, again, one of my favorite models. I hate that they didn't include a picture here because of the
I know
abilities.
that's a crime, isn't it? I mean, come on.
It is. It's one of your best looking models you released, and it's just sitting here like, wait, who am I looking at? Like, I honestly read over it the first time I was looking through the book because I was like, I got to the end and I was like, wait, where is that new guy? And then I flipped back and was like, oh, no picture. Okay, I was foolish me looking for art in a book. Yeah, why would I want to
And
associate
I
that?
know they're in the middle of the book, but these War Scrolls formatting, if you look at Iridan's War Scroll, right, he's like
Yeah,
half in the corner.
yeah,
Then you get nothing on Taurus who's shoved next to Gardas, and it's like, what is going on? Like these
right.
beautiful models. You should read the page and look at the model and go, I should buy that. Like I want to buy this model. And you'll think that more as you read the rules if you like the rules, right? There's no picture, so you think, oh, all right. It's just
Yeah,
I don't understand. Like, is it that much of a crime to prioritize 1 or 2 extra pages in the book?
it can't be because it's just crazy. There is basically no actual difference between Tornus' scroll and Iridan's scroll, other than the length of the prayer, right? Like, that's obviously meaningful. But you could have just given Tornus a whole page and shown that amazing model underneath it, right? Like, okay. So, anyways, Tornus, again, I think he's interesting, but he's very, 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 very points defended. Okay, so at any rate, he's a big knight, a Zeros, effectively, or whatever. So 12 inch, got a little fly move. He's 8 health, 3-up save, of course. He's got the great spear. Who cares? It's 1 attack. Like, yes, it's a perfectly fine attack, but okay, it's whatever. Anything that says 1 attack, I'm out. And then he's got his great spear in melee, which is Ren 2 damage 2 with crit 2 hits, which is fine. His ability for the Herald of the Redemption is actually interesting. If a friendly Ruination Chamber unit wholly within 12 of this unit uses the rally command, you receive 3 additional rally points. That is a very different implementation of that than we had seen previously. As opposed to just like sort of, getting more dice, right? Going straight to the actual rally points is interesting. He has his combat ability, where he can just sort of on a 3-up either give someone -1 to hit or heal everybody around him, which is cool. And then, of course, he has the Ruination Chamber resistance because he's a Ruination Chamber guy. What is the points value where you would think about this dude? And or follow-up question, Does this guy have no such points value, and you need to actually he needs to be a bonus hero to be considered taken, which he will not be as a named character.
No, I think when you look at Industria and Bastion, characters like that, right, he's in the same ballpark. So he's going to sit between 270 and 320, right? Somewhere around there. Like, for me, though, there's probably no point value where you're grabbing him, right? Which is a real tragedy because, for instance, the Relation Chamber Rally command point is fine, right? You get Paladin
Sure.
back, you run Reclusions, great. And I do think that should be locked to Relation because it encourages you to take it in his regiment, which I imagine will be Relation based, if that is. And then for the rest of the turn, though, his Light of Sigmar, why is that not heal D3 for each Stormcast unit within 12 and not combat range? Why
Sure.
can't he just be a beacon? Why is it combat range? Like
Right.
I don't understand. It's on a 3-up, so you're not getting it, right? And it encourages your opponent to engage him and kill him if he's healing, right? Because we're talking D3 heal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not recursion, just heal.
Just heal.
And
That's right.
yeah, and you can pick one of the effects. You don't get both. So you're picking the heal at the cost of -1 to hit, right? So there's a decision point there for the player as well, because you won't always need to heal, of course, right? So why is that not 12? And I think if you're taking this guy, it's difficult to see his role because he's not a fighter, he's not healing, he's perhaps, if you spend a command point to rally, which you're probably not going to do, you'll get a reclusion back.
Yeah, my honest answer is I think this guy falls into the skip category at any points. I agree with you because I like him. I think he's a really cool hero, but because of the current army construction rules, there's just it like because this guy will be a drop. There's no way they're gonna put a named special character like this as a bonus hero, even when they should be.
Yeah.
And like I'm gonna do a whole show on the worst unit types in the game, and yes, he can fly, which is great, but he's basically a melee foot assassin who just happens to have a slightly higher move, and there's just no actual purpose to this guy. There's no way his utility is worth a drop. That's what it comes down to. And they're not going to make him like 100 points, which even at 100 points, I'd be like, he's probably a skip for a drop.
Not at 8 wounds, right? Because they value that too high on a 3-up save to be
Right.
100
No
points.
war.
But like, for me, the miss here is why doesn't he have a special rule that nods to the Nurgle background, like some kind of resilience? How he doesn't have a 5-up ward feels like an opportunity missed, right? Bastion has a 5-up ward. This man sat in Nurgle's garden for centuries. He
Yep.
was Nurgle. He walked around Grandfather's Blessing for years. I just think they missed the trick there because I think if he did have that, especially if you were buying all the Relation Chamber models, he'd be a really lovely centerpiece to run in that army. And he's a gorgeous model. And you'd think, well, he's healing everyone within 12. He has a 5-up ward. I can give him, buddies, like Relation buddies to sort of summon and stuff. I
Yep.
can do bits. I can do bits. And you could see that Relation regiment. I look at that and go, if he was 200, which he won't be, but let's say he is.
Sure. Let's just imagine.
What he's competing with about 6 other foot heroes.
That's right.
Wizards, priests. A relict is 130. It's so difficult to justify him. Like even if you're taking Reclusions, right, a 6-pack, you're not going to take this guy for 250, 200 just to get a paladin back. You're
That's
just
right.
not doing. So it's just an absolute tragedy. I think they did Taurus dirty. No picture on his page. No special rules.
We should say, I don't have a picture of him in here, but it's worth talking about. The normal Knight of Zeros, right, that this guy's kind of the special version of, at 6 wounds, does have an ability this guy lacks, right?
Well, yeah, when we're talking about Lysias, I get to that, but why is it absent from him?
Right, yeah, where he can effectively pick a prosecutor's unit and let them make a normal move as if it were your movement phase, right, at the end of any turn. Unbelievably powerful ability, right? Letting your prosecutors go flippy flappy at the end of turn. It is you're gonna pick that one. Like I understand it can. You can also let prosecutors retreat, which is fine, but hopefully your prosecutors are mostly staying out of combat, honestly, unless they're fighting something that is just other enemy chaff. They're not like a hammer unit, obviously.
No.
But being able to move around the board, threaten objectives like that at the end of turn. Now again, it's still on a 3-up. I should state, so it's not automatic. But that is actually an ability where I would look at that and go, oh, well, at least that has some kind of purpose, right? Like,
yeah, because you might have a plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I have a plan. I'm going to roll 3-up. Let's, and I'm going to move these people pre-game or at the end of my turn, and it's going to cause havoc.
Right.
I'm going to be places I shouldn't be. Because I think if you're doing the pre-game stuff, you're taking Bastion, right? And they're just going to move 12. Because he unlocks any Stormcast, so you've got the freedom to take as whatever you want with him. I think the Knight of Zeros is the Ruination, so like the Prosecutors on a 3-up at the end of the turn is quite spicy because you can deny battle tactics, set up the flanks, set up terrain. There's a lot you can do there, and your opponent has to respect it. So the Knight of Zeros, I'm 100% in. Plus, you can give him traits. There's other factors there. Plus, I'm sure he's a lot less points investment, right?
Yep.
If he's up front, because he'd have to be within 12 right to do the 3-up. And if he goes down, you're like, well, it sucks, but he'll reforge and we'll see him again one day. But with Taunus, he's not even doing that.
Right. Agreed. And let me just state, depending on how the Knight of Zero shakes out, how close he is to his original points, I'm still not sure with this ability I'd take him. Because again, it's just like, yeah, that's a cool ability, but I honestly don't like hanging my entire battle plan on a 3-up. Like, it's a cool ability. And if the Knight of Zero shows up as a bonus hero, if regular Knight of Zero shows up as a bonus hero, then I would put him in a list. That's what I'll say.
The easiest way to fix it is just, why is it not once per battle?
Sure.
Just do it for free. No roll.
Just do it for free once per battle. No roll.
Realistically, you're probably doing it once before you die, or you fail the roll, right? And you just have it once per battle, so if you pay the points, which would be 160, whatever it is, because it's a flying hero, right? You get to do it this one time when you need to do it, and you can plan around it, right? Why is it on 3-up? I don't know. Maybe they just don't like the models and don't want people to have them.
They love making you roll. They're absorbing the learnings of destruction for the worse. Okay. Stormstrike Oh, good.
I was gonna say I thought we passed all of that to Iron Jaws. I don't know why we have it here. I thought they took all of that for the sins of whatever they did in the last edition. Isn't it a 3-up to move now in Iron Jaws? Yeah. Do they have to roll a 3-up to move?
We're almost there. Yeah, we're pretty close. Yeah. Stormstrike Paladors. Okay, so Paladors, 12-inch move, 5 health, 3-up save. Obviously, because of the 5 health, you get the standard 2 objective control that you would expect with that. They come with both the Lance and the Talons. I do love that it's Lance or Blade, by the by. Just a quick aside. I love that they're like, model it however you want. Yes, please make every unit like this from now until the end of time. Why are we still messing around with other weapon profiles? Storm Drake Guard. At any rate, the Paladors, I will be very curious to see where they land points-wise. Because they do have an interesting set of sort of abilities through their things. Where they come points-wise, I don't hate these guys at all. I don't like the models that much, but I like what they're doing. So with a unit of 3 of these, by the way, I should state that, like, this is your classic all-in cav unit where they get all the bells and whistles, even though there's 3 of them, right? They come with champion, musician, and standard bearer in this little pack of 3. But assuming you're I'm just going to talk about them in 3s, even though realistically, if you're going to take them as a hammer, you would certainly take 6. But they're in the perfect sort of heavy cav sweet spot here in my mind, where unit of 3 comes in, makes 10 attacks on 3s, Ren 2, damage 2 on the charge, right? That is a wonderful profile. And then you've got the 3 attacks on 5s, 3s, Ren 1, damage 1. Why is your bird on 5s? Why is this the worst bird in the world? I don't know. But okay, fine. I don't care. It's the guy on top who's doing all, or guy or gal on top who's doing all the work. As long as these are priced correctly, I think these could absolutely see play. But boy, oh boy, does that first sentence I just made count for a lot. Because you will probably have warrior chamber units in most of your configurations, and they will die. Like, that is actually what will happen. Point of fact. So this unit will effectively just start rerolling charges and strike first for basically the game. So where are you coming on these guys? Where are you coming down on these guys?
It's an interesting unit, because when you look at Stormcast, they have like 6 cav options, right? They already have a vast amount of cav. We were joking in the shop earlier, like, concussors. I was like, no, they're fulminators. I'm like, I don't think they're desolators. I was like, don't know you, Dracothian Guard, for the love of God. But these guys come in with the other Paladors who can run, shoot, charge, shoot, dance, shake hands, side photographs, just shoot again. So it's like, they're doing a lot. So when I played 6 of the old Paladors tonight,
Yep.
They have a 20-inch threat range. They can shoot, they charge, they shoot again, charge, and then obviously you do your old power through because it feels great to power through with Cav,
Yes.
right? These guys, well, obviously the Griff Charge Talons need to change to fours. They need to fix that because otherwise the mounts are doing almost nothing.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
I do not get the fives at all. Like is that
which I don't.
tabard they're wearing very heavy? Is it like should I keep getting caught up in it?
I just think if a Palador charged me with a metal head with a horn on it, that would hurt more with its talons around my throat than other Paladors, which are fluffy chickens. So I don't know why it's a five. But they also need a unit to die. So your opponent has some agency in controlling that. Like,
Sure.
we had a really interesting engagement earlier where Richie left one of my Paladors alive because he didn't want to kill the unit so I could heaven send it back, right? So players would be aware of that. And they're like, why would I power up your 6 hammer unit, which you're waiting for them to do,
Sure.
unless you just charge in a suicide unit, which you don't want to be doing in Stormcast because specifically you need a warrior chamber unit to die, which means you can't be your Aether Wings, it can't be your Griff Hounds. It's
Right.
something meaningful. And I don't know if that's a good idea. Like in terms of you're writing your list, you think, well, what's going to die? The answer is 5 Liberators, right? That's what you want it to be. But I don't know if you're running them, so it's like it's difficult to justify. Like, I agree with you. If they do get powered up, and we're talking like turn 2,
Sure.
maybe you can bring some 5 Liberators down turn 1,
Yeah, I mean,
send
if
them
you just
on.
kind of force the subject by actually making them, if you can at the same
Yeah,
time be controlling the battlefield, making them make a play that they didn't want to make anyways,
yeah,
sometimes you can kind of drop in a position, threaten one of their objectives, make them break off part of their army, go over, and now you've taken, several hundred points of their army out of the sort of main field of play where you want them. If you could be doing that sort of thing at the same time that you're also juicing your Beta Strike Hammer here up, I think that's not a bad trade, probably.
they're not move 14,
They're
which I
not.
know
They're
you're
move
happy. You
12
know you're
instead of
happy about.
14. Yeah.
So why the? But I think with this unit, you're always powering through, right? So that's something to consider. They cost you a CP every turn because you want that charge bonus
Right.
always. And when you've deleted something, you're gonna maybe tag multiple units, and then you're gonna power through away because you can
Yep.
get out of damage range, and then you're gonna come back in with your damage buff. So they do play that cat and mouse game quite well. But so do the other Paladors. And I
Sure.
don't know. The issue this unit has is if it loses 1 or 2 models, let's say you go to 4, can't really rally it. You can't put the
Right.
models back in, and the damage drop off just becomes quite big for a 400. And let's assume they're the same as the other Paladors at 210. So they're like a 420, 440 point unit. They're just not going to kill what they should because they're red and 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't stress that. We talked about R at the start. They're
Yeah. I mean,
why
the
why not
anti-infantry
red?
means a lot here, but yes, there is a lot of
It
infantry in the
does.
game. But you're right. But you're right.
It does. It does. And it does mean a lot. And that's why you need to power through basically all the time.
Yep.
And if your opponent's onto it, this is a message to all Sigmar players, but get out of 1 inch. Don't let people power through. Make it difficult. Make them earn it.
Right.
Make them.
Right.
As I've
Right. Right.
seen, I've watched tables where I thought, yeah, but they want to power through, and you've left that last model within 1 who's going to do 2 attacks at nothing, and you're going to let them power through and be wherever they want to be. Just be aware that units like this always want to power through. And if you just watch your opponent's CP counter, you can basically -2 off straight away, right? Because
Yep.
that's what they're going to do. So I don't know. And I don't know if you're going to take these over Fulminators. I don't know if you're going to take these over the existing Paladors, right? So they're competing in the same chamber, which is why I was like, why are they not Ruination Chamber, right? If you take Ruination Chamber, this is your Cav. They fit in the regiments. It's a very easy decision, right? Um, it's not the case here because they're Warrior Chamber and they're competing with others, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
But I do like the damage, and the strike first. Let's not underestimate the strike first is a big deal.
It is. I think that there's a point cost where these guys become very appealing. But I think it's boy, are we on an edge. Honestly, if they came out and they were 210, if they're the same cost as the Vanguard Paladors, that's a skip for me. If they came out and they were 190, okay, or something like
Yeah,
that, then I'm okay. Now I'm thinking I'm having a different discussion with myself, right?
yeah. Then you
So
get your calculator out. You're thinking, how much damage do the other Paladors actually do? And
right,
then you're sort of doing the math because that 40 points buys you another unit somewhere else upgrade. If that makes sense. So like,
right.
it does make a big difference if they're 180, which is where I think they should be. But 50 moons or a 3 up is probably 200, isn't it? Or 210. So we will see.
Probably,
We will
yeah.
see.
We'll see. All right, let's talk about this thing. This thing that just showed up. This is our new thing that showed up here. The Storm Coven.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that text is too small to read on the screen, but the little flavor text. So I'm gonna actually flip to the page. Give me a moment here. Okay. Storm Covens are elite strike teams of arcane specialists who often find themselves operating as part of a larger Stormcast army. Each of a Storm Coven's Knight Arcanums has mastered a particular school of celestial sorcery, and when they combine their talents, the effects are truly devastating. Okay. So, we have our Storm Coven here. Our multi-model wizard. Look, I'm just going to say it straight out. This thing rules. Now, again, everything points, blah, blah, blah. At 1,000 points, obviously, this is dumb. At 100 points is the greatest thing in the entire universe that's ever been printed, period. It was not going to be either of those. It'll be somewhere in between. Whatever, right? Okay. The fact that this unit's Wizard 1, but it gets 1 to its power level while it's contesting an objective. Very easy to achieve. You have home objectives most of the time. Seems simple enough. And the fact that it comes with a spell that either gives you strike first or your enemy strike last. And the fact that it is a many wound hero on a 3-up that doesn't take a hero slot. Right? I mean, we saw this in Skaven with the little Plague Priest pack thing, whatever it was. That thing goes in basically every army I've ever built with Skaven. It's amazing. I love it. It's incredible.
When you reinforce it, even better.
And so, yeah, it's just like, why not? I love 10 wound heroes or whatever that don't take a hero slot and yada 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 yada, right? I'm just like at a complete loss with how good this thing is. I don't know what else to say. Like, yeah, it's so good.
Like, for a while, we've said when they release Warcry bands or these other bands, we've said, look, get our attention. Yeah, not curiosity. Get our attention with some of these war bands, and people might take them. Here, they've gone, okay. I mean, they fully have our attention because we talked about the Paladors just then with the strike first, right? These have a spell that give any unit strike first.
That's right.
So you can actually decide, oh, my Paladins, my other Cav, whatever, right? Karazai, right? Because strike first, which is crazy strong. Not to mention they have 7 shots, 3/4, -1 D3.
Yeah.
So they're pretty good. They're pretty good at shooting from 18 inches. There's a spell in the lore that gives you a D6 charge on it, D6 charge on 18 inches. I forget, Thundershock, whatever it is, one of the global spells they can cast. So what they can do is they can give out D6 charge to your opponent in their turn. If you're contesting an objective, right, and you're power level 2, you then put strike last on another unit. So one is D6, one is strike last, and it's very difficult for your opponent to sort of mitigate that, right? They can't really do anything about it other than roll the unbind. And I think this unit, if you think it's going to be 100 points to those people in the chat, get out of here, right? It's the 210 in the Legacy Index, whatever. They're a wizard. They're 9 wounds on a 3-up. It's going to be 200 points. You're probably not going to reinforce it. You're not going to spend 420 points on a 6-man unit. But these 3 are amazing, and you can bring them back if you need to.
That's right. We were going to get there. Yes, like just like with the Plague Pack or whatever coming back through the Null Hole, these guys can come back with Heaven Sent or whatever it's called. Yes.
And I think the challenge here with these is you typically want to take a foot hero that's a wizard. Now, but you also want these. So your foot hero might change because this is your new wizard. They can also compete with the Vigilor spot, right? Because Vigilor is like a luxury 180 unit that you take for the free all-out attack on your entire army for the rest of the turn, which is insane. But these are on the level. And I think this will be the most popular unit you've never heard of. I thought this was actually a show on Disney Plus, but I forgot it's called the Agatha Witch when it's a Storm Coven, because it's Halloween. Sure. Have you heard of Storm Coven? And I was like, is that like the new Marvel thing? They're like, no, that's Agatha the Witch or something. And I was like, oh, right, okay. But it's really interesting to see. And I do want to just stress, same with the Scabbard Plague Pack, I really enjoy taking wizard or priest roles and putting them on units. It doesn't always have to be a hero, because sometimes in some armies, the regiment system can be very difficult for you to get the right heroes. So having utility and agency like this can be good, just as long as everyone has it, right? And it's not just a couple of armies that have these amazing options. Because what if, the Iron Jaw, for instance, and I keep using Iron Jaw as an example, but what if they had a unit that was a wizard, right? Because they don't want to take the shaman, because they can't.
Right.
But what if they had a kooky unit that could just do some magic? It helps a lot.
Yep.
And it means you don't have to pay the cost of the hero and the regiment slot. So you can take a Industrial or a Bastion, and you can take any Stormcast because you've got your wizard somewhere else. This unit's incredible, and I think it unlocks a lot when we talk about top tables. If you're good enough with your Storm Coven, and by that I mean you play them well enough that they're out of harm's way, they are doing the D6 charge, they're doing the strike last or strike first, they're dictating some of the terms of engagement, that can sway against good armies.
Completely agreed.
I think they're a big role, and people will have to prioritize them, a bit like Praetors, and they won't want to, but they understand the strength of them, right? Which buys your other units time. Yep. So they're doing multiple things. Pre-order one, buy one, convert one, go get your Storm Coven. You
probably got extra casterish looking Stormcast sitting around given what happened. So, yep. Hey, shout out to Anthony. Thank you very much for the super chat. It said Storm Coven is non-unique and can be reinforced. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's gonna, but I mean, points dependent. You probably wouldn't, but you can because they got more than 2, so you can bring them back. But even if you can't, but like again, it's just even more ridiculous that they can, because you're talking about then again. I love the inconsistency of like, oh, all wizards and priests have to be their own drop, right? They basically gave no wizard or priest heroes as bonus heroes in all indices, right? But then in the last 2 books, we've just gotten these weird bonus non-heroes who are allowed to have twice as many wounds, right? And don't cost a drop because they fit into other units. I'm just like, you guys see where there's a problem here, right? Like, the reason this is so good is because of the artificial weird stricture you've put on our list building, and then just said, but also here's this way to just completely ignore that and still get what you want. Why do you think I'm taking the hero wizard? Like, it's for the spell. That's all I care about. What is going on here?
Yeah, we could talk about the regiment system, right? Like, we could talk about that in depth, but it's worth a show, probably one of your shows you do on that. But like, these are doing, the game incentivizes you to play the manifestation game. It incentivizes you to do other elements of the game that require wizards. And if you don't have one, tough. And the ones that cast really well can play into that really strongly, which we'll see with Siege and Lumineth. It doesn't, like you said last week, it doesn't matter that they nerfed Morbid, because the good armies will just put the best one out. And they'll go, well, I'll easily kick that out, and I'll just wait. And then when it suits me, I'll put the second one out. And you might unbind it, you might not. But these are another example of that. Like, the Scabbix pack is really good because you reinforce it and then you put Quick Mortal on it, and there's loads of bodies that just do loads of attacks, right? It actually has multiple purposes. These aren't quite like that, but in an army that really struggles to have a magic presence or magic defense, which is more important, I think, at the moment, these are incredible. Like, and I'm here for it. I'm glad you only have to paint 3. And not like 20
easy.
Scabbix
Yeah, 3 models.
Yeah, and
3 very cool models.
Nobody will have any idea if you just swap them out for models people have never heard of.
Nope.
If you put them down on the table and you've got Shadespire and you put the original 3 there, you're like, that's my Storm Coven? And you go, cool.
Right, yeah.
One of the 6 warbands that exist for Stormcast, you go, that's my Storm Coven. So actually, they get that utility as well. You get to use your old models. I would always advocate use the correct models, of course. But, yeah, awesome. I can't stress enough. It's the unit I never thought I needed, but now I need it.
Right. Mr. J says my evocators will become Storm Coven. Yeah, love it. Great. Hey,
exactly,
there you go.
Right? Yeah. And that's another benefit, right? Because I know some people were down about the article where some models will exit in the range. Nobody will know the difference.
Nope.
Absolutely. And if they do that, I am.
All right. I did have the Knight of Zeros in here. Well, how about that? I forgot I did take a picture of him because he's right next to the Lord Vigilant on Morgriff. Well, we already talked about the updated Knight of Zeros.
Just before that, though, could we just talk about Quest Assault Swarm next to Storm?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course.
Because it was a very popular unit, right? Because it was teleporting, it was doing the ward. Now with Stormcoven, I think that pushes Soulsworn out because of the terrain piece. It can do it on any unit to any objective. You don't have to declare it, and your opponent doesn't have that information ahead of time. It doesn't have to be wholly outside your territory. You can just pick 5 Liberators up and shoot them off into the sky,
Yeah.
and hopefully you'll see them again. But the Soulsworn were 210, 230, whatever they were. I
Something
think
like
they're
that, yeah.
coming out now, right? And you're putting your Stormcoven in. So it's ironic
I
they're next to
agree.
each other on the pages. But I just wanted to point that out, that a lot of people were running Soulsworn because of
Yeah.
that agency, and now Stormcoven will just take their spot, and some other units getting slingshotted from the terrain piece, to do the same role. So I think that's probably a change you'll see a lot from
I think
Stormcast
that's a great
lists.
shout out. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Agreed 100%. Mr. J says 230. Yeah, that's what I thought. Just thought it was in
Yeah.
that range. Yeah.
So
There you go. So, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a pretty much 1-to-1 swap over. So, yep. All right. We'd already talked about the Azeros and the Light and the Dark. But Lord Vigilant on Morgriff. This is the generic version, I guess, is what to call it, of the other person we talked about, of Iridan, whatever. This is the thing. So this is your big monster generic version of Stormcast on Giant Raven, for lack of a better, more identifying term. I know it says Morgriff. I don't believe you. I disagree. It's a giant raven. At any rate, so your Lord Vig is a big monster. It's a Ruination Chamber. Got that ability. Can pick a friendly non-hero Ruination Chamber unit wholly within 12 to be the target. For the rest of the turn, while this target is wholly within 12 of this unit, add 5 to the target's control score. And then it has a once per turn army rampage in the charge phase, where if you charge a non-monster hero in combat, you can roll 2d6, and if you exceed the health characteristic, that target has strike last and cannot be picked as the target of commands. I would like less Griff. Again, I don't know how much this thing is going to cost, but I'm pretty sure it's the wrong amount. I don't care about objective control. I don't want to use the Ruination Chamber's ability on this thing. The Rampage is Garbo. There are 2 non-monster heroes potentially at most in basically any army, and if you get into combat with them, they're probably going to die most of the time anyways. Good luck, you're not going to get into combat with them as it is, certainly not with this thing. And his damage is not good. So I don't know what we're talking about here. It's a complete skip from top to bottom.
yeah, I think if you bought Skaven Tide, you're probably disappointed to see the scroll.
Well, this is the big
He's a
one,
cool.
not the little one.
Oh, he's not the one. He's Iridan's twin.
Yes, that's right.
Why does everything have to be, if you're wholly than 12, it's +5 control score?
Yes.
Like, I get it. It's a lower range model. You don't have many models, but that's not an ability. And also, like, why is it a non-monster hero,
Right.
2d6,
So
strike
specific.
last, and then it's like, cool. If you're charging a non-monster hero, you're probably killing it anyway.
Right. Correct.
And again, we're here with the Ruination Chamber. It's like, why doesn't he do more for them, right?
No.
In terms of, like, because at this point he's just like +5 to somebody within 12. Unless he charges, he's doing nothing. I'm just baffled by, yeah, okay, it's damage 3 on the charge, but it's like, this guy is like, it's such a shame.
I look at this collection of jank abilities. By the way, shout out to New Doc Prime, who said the Anvil of Apotheosis is a good way to use the old heroes. Yeah, that's absolutely. That's a great call out. There's the Path to Glory sections in here. We don't cover them very often, but yeah, they are robust, and so that is a great call out. Okay, I just look at this janky collection of abilities, and I'm like, what in your I want to talk to the person who wrote it and be like, in your mind, what did this what did this model do? Like, how did you see it working as part of the army, right? Because I don't see it. Like, these pieces, you just threw like 4 puzzle pieces from 4 different puzzles down on a page. None of them make an image. I don't know what this is.
He's
Right?
not
Or
even
what
a
it's supposed to
priest.
be. Right. Exactly. Like, what is this?
And you're right, it's like, if you could say to the person that wants to go, like, what do you envisage this role doing? If I pay 400 points, let's say 340 for this guy, what do you expect me to do with him during the game? He's not buffing my army. He's not aggressive in combat. If he charges something, he'll probably die on the charge back. What is the role here
Right.
for the brand new kit?
Yes. For this
That's an
beautiful
incredible
brand new
model.
centerpiece model you released. Yes.
What are we doing here? You know, and I'm really disappointed to see. I really hoped the non-named version would be awesome.
Right.
So you could customize them with traits, you could customize them with artifacts, and you could unlock Ruination Chamber. You'd be like, I'm taking Ruination Chamber because this hero is amazing, and I want to take this piece. And as a result, he has Ruination Regiments. I'm taking New Reclusions. I'm taking Prosecutors. I'm taking my bonus hero, the Knight of Zeros, which I know won't be, but you know, he could be. Um, that's not the case. So
Yep. Oh, quick
maybe
thing that I
maybe in the next
just
book.
yeah, you're good. Quick thing that I just remembered on the on so one interesting thing about Tornus and the Knight of Zeros, I had made a mental note about to this before the show, but then I of course forgot to cover it. They're both objective control 5,
Yeah.
which I assume is not an error since they're both like that. Is it because they have a glowy lantern? Is that the justification? They have a bright light, so they have higher objective control. Like, I can't think of what else it would be, but I had noted that when I was reading it through, and I was like, is that how it was in the index as well? Did I miss that in the index? Can someone tell me? I caught it here, and I was
like for my money, all Stormcast heroes should be Control 5, all foot heroes, because there's
sure.
so few of them. You know, it's so hard to contest objectives with control score with Stormcast unless you've deleted a lot of what's on it. They should all be 5, right? So for me, that should be standard, but we both know it's not. So
Right.
but
Agreed. Okay. Now here's the guy out of
that's the
the
guy.
box set. This is the guy. We get a picture of the guy.
Yeah.
So the Lord Vigilant on Griffstalker. This is the Scaventide guy, homie. So 8 health, 12-inch move, 3 up save, of course, as would be standard. 5 attacks, 3 threes, rend 2, damage 2, and then his little Griffstalker's beak and talons. 3 attacks, 4 threes, rend 1, damage 2. Has your standard Ruination Chamber ability, and then declare his once per battle in any combat phase. Pick a friendly non-hero Ruination Chamber unit within 12 inches. The target can use 2 fight abilities this phase. After the first, they get strike last. Standard fight twice thing, have strike last. Okay. All right. Okay. In his defense, his once per battle ability is theoretically a good ability. That is to say, being able to fight twice is a good ability. The fact that it is locked to Ruination Chamber only, and the fact that he himself isn't very good, means no. Again, not a wizard, not a priest, not doing anything incredibly meaningful, not filling a role in your hero slot, taking up a drop, and being able to buff units that are very hard to get this effect off with in an efficient way. This is where, like, I agree with you. If we had gone back earlier, if those other Paladors that we introduced, if those had been Ruination Chamber, then I'd probably be singing a different tune, right? Because if I could charge them in, have this guy buff them, make those things fight twice on the charge against a couple infantry units, okay, now we've got some heat coming off of that. But that is not how the world worked out, and yet again we're caught in the same sort of trap that you've mentioned several times, right?
And this is why I got confused earlier, because I wanted to get to this guy, because that's my point with the Paladors. If they're the Cav, this guy creates a Cav army, right? You've got the Cav
Sure.
element to your regiment where he can go with them. And once per game, he's doing, okay, we're going to fight twice. So it's going to be a huge turn, and like you're going to do a lot of damage, and that maybe is your big play, right? The fact that he doesn't have any like custom rules or anything to sort of give him flavor, because what this is really saying is you're going to fight twice with your Reclusions once per game.
That's right.
And they
That's
have to be
exactly
112. And let's hope that the damage doesn't come back on them before they get that strike last second activation. Because as
Yep.
we all know, if you've ever used Iron Guts, if you've ever used anyone with this ability, not all the lads are there for the second go, right? You
Yep.
lose some along the way, sadly, right? They don't always come with you. So you don't get the full value of that second strike because your opponent's going to mitigate it somewhat or do something, right? So, and even if he's 200 points, it's a shame. You just not because all of the heroes he's competing with you're just never taking this guy. Even in Ruination, right? If he's, let's say he's 210, 240, I'm probably taking Taunus,
Yeah, sure.
instead. Or a Knight of Zeros, or another unit of prosecutors. I don't know why I would take this guy. Because it's not like he's any Stormcast in his regiment. He will be Ruination, of course, right? Yeah, it's a real shame. I really like the model. Um, but I don't think you'll ever see it on a table.
Yep. I sadly must agree. So, Kat says, don't forget the strike first from the Storm Coven cancels the strike last from this ability and lets the second fight happen in the normal phase so they can fight back to back. Yeah,
Sure.
sure. I think at that point you're throwing a lot of good money after bad is my issue. Because I just don't think the Reclusians have it, is where I come down.
It's only six of them, right? That's the problem. And like you say, if it was six Paladors, hello,
Sure.
but because it's six Reclusions, they have to get there, right? So you
Yep,
have to
it's six
teleport.
slow walking infantry models. Even if they hot drop in, it's still, you're still dealing with 18 wounds total on a 3-up save. And in the end, that's just not that much.
And in that scenario, if you're looking at the dominoes, it's like you can't bring them down because they're not there for the Storm Cavern to cast a spell on the hero phase.
Right.
So they need to be on the board. So it's either going to be turn 2 because you're not walking those lads, or you're casting it on them, teleporting them with the terrain piece, running him 18, and then you're going to have a go at doing this thing, but your opponent's going to know it coming. So it's not always going to be on your terms. It's just not something you should be doing because you'll
Very
lose your
good.
reclusions. You'll lose your reclusions to whatever countercharges them in the next turn, right? So you're just giving them up for a trade. I would not recommend that. And the Lord Terminus kindly gave up his photo to go on the front of the rulebook. He doesn't even get a picture.
Yet
And he's
again,
like,
love these brand new models. Love this new War Scroll format. It's working out great for us, guys. Working out really great. All right. Let's talk about the Stormreach portal. By the way, Mr. J says Reclusians are actually really good. Mr. J is a stand for the Reclusians. I will say thus far I haven't been that impressed with them, but hey, maybe I've missed something.
You could talk the Lord Terminus a little bit because he is a new model.
Sure.
He probably, if he's cheap enough, he probably is your best unlock to Ruination Chamber regiments, right? He's a foot hero. He's probably going to be the cheapest. The Memoriam rule is not bad. Honorable death, you can argue either way. I think it's fine.
Sure.
If you get charged and he's there, fine. But he's probably your cheapest unlock. And why I'm saying that's relevant is we'll get to it in a minute. Is the Regiment of Renown.
Yeah.
With the Ruination stuff, he is the cheapest guy, probably at 6 wounds, foot hero. So something to consider. You're probably going to run the Warrior Chamber stuff, but yeah, I think he's also a shame because I like his model as well.
It's a really gorgeous model.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Stormreach portal. This new
Not the comet.
What's that?
Not the comet that's next to it.
No, we'll ignore that. We'll pretend that doesn't exist. We're going to talk about this the new Stormcast outhouse. That now, congratulations, you two have been cursed with a piece of terrain that you will be setting up all the time. This thing's actually bigger than you think it is. Like it's pretty decently sized. But we've talked about it a whole bunch. It's a 12 health, 4-up save piece of terrain. And you can, in your movement phase, pick a friendly, non-monster Stormcast Eternals unit that is not in combat, which is important, but yet not in combat. And wholly within 6, this terrain feature would be the target. Remove the target from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Great. So your people can walk over to it and then go. Like they can walk over and then get shot across the board. You now have a completely reliable, uncounterable teleport once around in your movement phase. Very big deal.
So this is incredible. I think this we talked about earlier about Stormcast. How does it appear on the top tables? This is one of the key components because it allows you to reposition models you deploy on the table, which wasn't true before. Slow moving stuff or cav that you knew could run across the board for company, the ones coming down from the sides of the storm. This terrain piece when I first saw it, I thought, oh, I wonder what it does. I thought it was going to restore models, a bit of recursion because they come back down from Azir through this, they come out of the portal, off they go again. But it's incredible. 9-inch teleport anywhere on the battlefield, not
Yep,
even the board edge, just anywhere. And it's not even on a 2-up. You don't even have to roll. And it's free.
that's right.
You talk about the haves and have-nots. What a gift. What a
I,
gift
I
from
mean,
Sigma.
I love it when we get it. The terrain pieces are such a tale of two cities, right? Because you'll see some that's just like, I literally could not care less if I bring this thing or I don't. It just means nothing to my overall battle plan with some of the terrain pieces. And then you see something like this and you're like, holy crap.
Well, I was joking with Richie about the Fireslayer Forge, right? You set it up and it's like, whatever, I would do some prayers near it. I may or may not help me. This is like game-changing, incredible. Turn 5, you just redeploy in their turn near it. So your turn, you can teleport straight away to the other side of the board and win the game by stealing their objective. There's so much you can do with this thing. Incredible. And I know people will say, oh yeah, but we can charge it, we can, you can get
Sure.
people into your army. Trust me, at that point, you don't care. You've either left and you're already done what you want to do, or they're coming into a lot of Stormcast units that are waiting to sort of hit you with a hammer and then do it anyway. So it's
Sure.
like, it's not a Narhol, to come back to Skaven, which are quite brittle, right? But they also need that for their shenanigans. This is actually quite hard to kill. 12 and a 4-up. It's a commitment to come after it, and you don't
That's
really
right.
want to be doing that. So you're just not going to bother. So you're probably always going to have this. I think this is incredible. What a free gift this is, and there's no
Agreed.
roll, no CP. Incredible. And it also devalues the Relictor, right? Previously translocation, which ironically you had to roll for, and if you rolled a 1, you weren't doing it, or maybe you didn't get enough points. This takes him out of the way to bring in a wizard to do manifestation game, and I'm going to get to do
At the
it all
same
for
time, you're
free.
getting the Storm Coven in, which is
Yeah,
going to be another wizard there. So yeah, it's all coming up Millhouse.
I'm having my cake and I'm eating it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is incredible.
Uh, I'm yeah, it's really good. I mean, like, I don't know what to say. It's hard to evaluate a unit that I know is 0 points and does a really good thing, other than to say, "Yep, congratulations, you got a good terrain piece." There you go. And
It also hides your wizards, right? Like previously, the Nurgle tree hid the Nurgle sorcerer. Like you can
sure,
put your key little foot guy that needs to be alive to do whatever behind this. No one can shoot them. It's because it's quite big, like you say. If you haven't
yeah,
seen this thing, it's bigger than you think.
yeah.
What a gift! Like just out of nowhere, I was like, okay. I was like, let's, you know, I can't wait to see what the cities and Ironjaws and all the armies that don't have one that are clearly going to get one this edition, what that's going to do. But this is amazing.
If my Iron Jaws one gives me back old smashing and bashing or old mighty destroyers in any way, I'll be grateful. As long as it's
Yeah.
on the table, all your models are damaged too. Great, sure, that would be nice. I would take that too. Whatever. I got lots of ideas. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Let's talk little Armies of Renown, shall we? Okay, we're making good time. Armies of Renown. So we got 2 of them, as is standard now for these things. By the way, as we get into the Armies of Renown, if you haven't hit like or subscribe or done those things, hey, hit things that make things. It's cool. Be cool. And thank you to everybody who super chatted so far and all of you who are giving such great feedback and discussion as we're talking about this. It's really appreciated. Okay. Kuhal says destruction terrain. It'll be like if you can do a standing backflip on a 3-up, give 1 unit holy within 12 plus 1 to hit. I'd take it with Iron Jaws at this point. I'd be practicing backflips all day long. I'll do anything for plus 1 to hit with my Iron Jaws.
If I could do anything, I would bet money on it'll have 3 or 4 stipulations you have to meet before you can activate the thing. You have to be a non-hero, infantry, not within 12 of anything, that's not lost any models, that on a 4-up can move twice. And I just can't wait to see that happen.
It's going to be really exciting. Yes, I am excited. So rather than go through blow by blow with these, I want to kind of get your take on the 2 Armies of Renown. So we start with I'll just kind of lay out what they are. This is the Ruination Brotherhood. You have to take Irridan the Witness, which hurts. Must be your general. You can take Ruination Chamber units, Liberators, Night Questors, any other non-hero Warrior Chamber units, And obviously you can't include Regiments of Renown. Okay. What did you think of the Ruination Brotherhood?
I think if you're going to play Ruination Chamber, this is where you do it. You're
Okay.
not going to do it in traditional regiment because of the 5-up ward. You're probably going to give that to unit every turn. You get to take your Ruination Chamber units anyway. Now, okay, you pay the Iridium tax, which sucks, but you do get a core model on the table. So you get style points
All right.
just for getting your army out. You're never, ever, ever going to take a Night Quester, and you're not going to take Liberators. So you're just going to populate the rest of it. And by that, I mean outside of Occlusions and Prosecutors, with the Warrior Chamber units, which was actually
Right.
quite a lot of and are quite good. Now, the downside is you don't get your Raptors. But this is kind of your 5-up ward, anvil, attrition style Stormcast army that has a core of Reclusions, Prosecutors under wings, and then you're going to have Warrior Chamber units, so whatever you want that to be. There's quite a lot of them, right? We talked about the Paladors before. They
Yep.
could well be in this. Because you are going to lose some Prosecutors in this regiment, right? They're actually quite a good candidate to go off, score tactics, and die.
Yep.
So it's interesting to think how this plays because not many people run Armies of Renown as a core army, right? But this is actually pretty good. Like Temp of the Floor is good. Hallowed Presence is also pretty good.
It's more ward. It's more ward on your army.
And it's only slight defense, but if you played against Stormcast, they don't die. So the 5-up ward on your Reclusions probably always. And then your other lads are just on a 6-up. It's pretty good.
It gives you an actual rampage for Irridan that does something, which is nice.
So that's the one that's quite nice, right? So it actually does something, and he'll have prayers, right? So he brings prayers to this.
Right.
I'm assuming you get the train piece. It doesn't say you don't, so you are able to slingshot some stuff. If Irridan is magically 300 or less, this probably looks a lot better. If he's
Sure.
a 420 tax, doesn't feel good.
Right.
That doesn't feel good to include him, but I do think if you're running Ruination, you're probably looking at him anyway, because he's going to allow any. You know what I mean? He's probably the Chamber Master, right? It's any Ruination.
Yeah.
My one gripe with Ruination is why are Prosecutors not 3 runes? Is that not something we could do? Like, I mean, I don't
Because
know.
the honest answer is because of the size of them. They're not thick enough. That's it.
And a Fellback is 4 wounds.
Sure. Look at him. His wings are so big. I don't know. I
Just
have no
like-
justification for it. No, you're exactly right.
If they
It's
were
crazy.
3, they would tug at your heartstrings more to take them, right? Because the survivability is a bit better. They have more wounds. Okay, it's harder to rally, but whatever. But I don't know. Like for me, because that's the struggle. They just die so easily on 2 wounds apiece. So, but anyway, I think you will see this run, especially people that like Ruination, because I think those abilities are better than the heroes we discussed, right? None of those heroes are giving you access to a 5-up ward, to 6-up ward, to the abilities they've got here with Temper and Screech. So it's like you say, that improves Iridan already. So if you're running Ruination and you've got Skaven Tire, which is an amazing box set, right, and you've got those models and you paid them up, I think you're looking at this probably quite strongly.
I will say your Raven's Flight prayer. I also quite like. It's a really good prayer. You get a decent enough replacement prayer lore here. Your unlimited is kind of whatever, I guess. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Like it's whatever. There are situations where it could be very beneficial, but it's hard to use. That's just the shortest way I can say that. But Raven's Flight, where you get 2 inches to your move characteristic, and because again that prayer can target any unit. So you could take the Warrior Chamber Paladors we talked about earlier, which are takeable in this list. Can get up to that 14, which is meaningful when they then power through away or whatever. And if it's 8+, then they can also run and charge. So you can with that prayer, you're sort of building them toward being the other probably better Paladors, right? Like you're getting their speed back up, you're getting them run and charge. Like, okay, we're getting back in the neighborhood of what I'm doing with those other Paladors, right? So yeah.
But this comes back to my argument earlier of why is he not Priest 2? Because you're running him here, right? But if you're doing Raven's Flight, you can't do another prayer to store up. So realistically, you're hitting this 8 on turn 2 or 3, but you don't need the run and charge. It's if he was Priest 2 turn 1, I could pray in your turn, pray again in my turn. Then I can roll to pray this on the third prayer in my turn. I hit the 8, and now my Paladin unit is off. It's gone.
Right.
He's priest 1.
Yep.
So
you're banking your
perfect.
strat on good rolls, and banking on rolling 2 4-ups in a row. Well, you know what? That's not a winning strategy, as any destruction player will tell you. So there you go.
And that's why I think it's a shame, because like if he was priest 2, I think it changes a lot. I don't think it changes his points too much, and I think he would have an argument to take him. Murder Spock is fine as well, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
You're going to see clan rats, you're going to see horrors.
Sure.
You're probably going to see some units of 20s, so I think it's okay. But
yeah, I think having any Horde Buster spell in your repertoire is just generally, or prayer, I guess in this case, but having any Horde Buster is generally pretty advantageous in the current meta, right? So it's fine.
Yeah, because the Mora's Embrace, I just think, when would you ever do that?
I have a situation for you. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna construe an insane situation here, but I'll give it to you. Okay. You have a bunch of prayer points. Yeah, let's just say you prayed for something, you didn't end up using your prayer points. So let's just say you're at like 5 prayer points. Okay. And there is a unit of Varangard, okay, that you do not have one of your hammers nearby to deal with. And let's say it's down to 3 models. Okay. I suppose if you had the prayer and nothing else to buff, like if your choice is literally like, well, I'm not going to put Raven's Flight on myself, right? That's not doing anything. But if I can just snuff out effectively one of those Varangard, right? Just kill it instantly by rolling 2d6 and very likely statistically getting more than a 5 and instantly reducing that unit from 3 to 2, then I go charge it or something. Sure. Like, there you go. That's the... I understand how you got to dig deep into that corner that I'm living in right now, but it's hilarious to me to make this the unlimited prayer. Like, what a joke.
I know, that's what I was going to ask.
Right?
Like, what on earth are we doing here? Like, all your priests can do this, right? But you probably only have Iridan, who's a priest 1.
Right.
But it's unlimited, so you can do it as many times as you want with your 1 priest with power level 1.
They love putting unlimited on the goofiest prayers. Like, again, I wish they would think deeply about, like, well, wait, is this a prayer that they could feasibly in this army use multiple times or want to use multiple times, or would have a call to be used multiple times? Is okay, sure.
That's one of those times where I'm like, on a Sunday playing a stressful game and your opponent goes, I'm going to use Mortar's Embrace, and you're like, what?
Right.
And you can't check it on the app because you're not allowed to see the rules anymore. But
of course,
you just have to say, what does that do? And they're like, and they read it to you and you go, what? And then they do it, and then they kill your Varangard, and you're like, unbelievable. And then you tell someone about it afterwards, and they go, what? You're like, yeah. Mora's Embrace, man, killed that Varangard, and my control score was too low, and they won the game. That Stormcast player's like, I am digging deep into my book of knowledge to win these games.
That's right. I am the greatest Stormcast player in history.
I'm using Mora's Embrace with my Army of Renown, and I am just winning games. I'm like, incredible. I just don't see it. But Raven's Flight is genuinely you doing that, right? It is good. And like you said, the Paladors are a great target. But then so is all the other Warrior Chamber Cav.
Of course.
Who may move further and do more damage. And don't need units to die.
Sure. Okay. God Santa. First of all, great name. Is it mean-spirited to say that a lot of the AOS rules are poorly thought out? I mean, probably. But I for me, I don't know that I like. Here's what I'll say. I've kind of struggled with how I talk about this. I think that it's not that, like, I've seen some people say like, oh, well, the designers clearly love this army or hate this army or whatever, and I don't think that's true. I think the designers, the people who write these rules, genuinely love this game and genuinely love all of the armies. I think that's just true. Okay. But I also think that, like any human beings, they are in fact human beings and have a set of, like, sort of biases, but that's sort of a loaded term. But it's more just like, what do I want to call it? Like predilections towards certain armies. And so they're more familiar with them. They might like them a little more subconsciously, whatever. And so when they write the abilities for those armies, they kind of just know them better and know how they should work and could work and step by step, and can more easily think of like the secondary and tertiary consequences. And so I think that like when you see really good rules, where they're generally really good is because it feels like this tapestry that's been woven together, right? Where the things have defined roles and the secondary and tertiary consequences of using one thing has a lot of other benefits that are happening. There's like stacks on stacks of plays. And then you look at other armies and it seems more like a house of sticks that's kind of been like laid together, because again, they just didn't, it's not as though they hated that army or wanted to make it bad or something like that. That's silly, right? It's just they didn't have that level of familiarity, intimacy, deep knowledge, play patterns, all those kind of things it actually takes to write those sorts of, really, like, these are very complicated rules that are being written, rule systems. And so I just think that that's what it comes down to. It's almost like an expertise thing more than anything. That's my read on it. So I don't think anybody's being malicious.
We get like subconscious bias, right? Like, so you put stock in systems you think are more valuable than I do, right? So like we go back to the control score 5 on a unit. At the time, they might have thought, we think that's quite valuable, so we think that's a good ability for him to have. As the game is played by thousands of people and populated, it turns out people don't value that. So all of a sudden, what you thought was a valuable ability isn't really being used. And you probably at that point wish it was something else, but it's too late, because during testing and when you, like you say, when you're developing 1,000 rules for like 26 different armies, you think control score matters, abilities with control scores valuable, and it wins games. So we think that's a good ability to have. So it's not that they thought it was bad; they just probably put value in it that we don't. So sometimes that can happen as well with systems, and then you'll see it in AOS3 ironed out, right? They sort of fade away, and new things come in. Like you'll see that as the tomes come out, I'm sure.
As they
You'll
bend
see
toward what's actually
go
valuable,
down,
I think that's an excellent point as well.
That.
And clearly they thought objective control was going to be a thing. Spoilers, it's not. Much to my chagrin. And when I was playing like my first 3, 4, 5 games, I had a couple games where it mattered, but that's because we hadn't really figured out all the hammers and how to push the damage yet. Once we kind of got our sea legs under us, as it were, and we realized, oh no, we can just lift units. It was like, okay, this doesn't really matter.
If you line up the right combos, which is an important part of the game, like the control scores are relevant at that point. The one time I think it would be relevant is if abilities had the ability to switch it off. So if there's one left, they go, like I think is it brutes? You can't score 1 or 2 wounds, just don't score. Things like that can matter, right? So that's interesting. But yeah, it's I'm control 10. Right? But you can control anything you want from beyond the grave because you're dead. So it doesn't matter what control.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. You know what? You ain't controlling anything from the small slice of the board outside the battle mat where you're setting your fig after I'm done killing it. Yeah, that's right.
Like
Ramyam did they remove the 5+ ward from Ruination Chamber for base army and only available in this Army of Renown? No. It's just it's in both places. You carry it over into the army. They just get the base ability because you have to reprint everything here because they get nothing from the base abilities. Like you don't have Scions of the Storm here, right? Like you can't be in the heavens or whatever.
Which is the one awful thing. But because you have your terrain piece, that helps.
Sure. Yeah, you've
so that does offset it.
Mobility. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Kuhal says he control scores are going to be so important. Then some rules writer right before a different one invented Varangard. Yeah, well. Okay. Your second one is your second Army of Renown is Heroes of the First Forged. Okay, so who's leading this one? Why, it is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Lord Commander Bastian Carthalos. Put the respect he deserves on his name.
He's not a War Master.
What's that?
He's not a War Master, though.
He is not, though. He must be the general here. You can also take the Celestant Prime, which you won't. You can also take Karzai, which you will. You can take Cronus, you can take Yndrasta, you can take Warrior Chamber Heroes, Praetors, which you'll take to bodyguard Karzai. I know this guy, my light kind of blew that out. You can take Annihilators, and you can take Annihilators with Meteoric Grandhammers. This is a very funny army to me, okay? This particular Army of Renown. Because, like, I'll tell you right now, man, this one speaks to me. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. I I started Warhammer in, I don't know, 97, 98, somewhere around there. So let's say, so this is like 4th edition or 5th edition, right? It was being, like, he had 4th edition books. It was 5th edition. It had come out in 96. And there was plenty of Hero Hammer at that time. Okay. Like, a Bloodthirster would start the game by flying high, and then he would just come down and just kill your entire unit because he'd be like weapon skill 10, strength 10, 10 attacks. Just crazy, crazy stats, right? I might be lying about one of those. He probably had a 9 somewhere. But at any rate, so I love Hero Hammer. And this one's like, this army is like, hey, Vince, what if it was just Hero Hammer and your other favorite unit that no one else really likes, which is Annihilators, like, which I know are bad. Like, I know they are, but I just thought they were the coolest unit ever. And, you know, I've used Karzai so much. Like, it's just some ward saves for your giant dragon and Annihilators because you're you. Like, this has to be written for me. It is as though they plucked this from my brain. Okay. I mean, let me just say it straight up. This is my Army of Renown. From this point forward, this is what I play. This is it. If you play me playing Stormcast, this is what I'm playing. So there you go. What does this army do? Well, it gives you Scions. You still have that. And it gives you punch through once per turn army in your charge phase. Pick a friendly infantry unit in combat that is not charged this turn to use this ability. This unit can immediately use the charge ability and can move through enemy models when it does so. So you get to be Night Haunt with one of your units. Amazing, amazing ability. I hate it. Thanks, I hate it. And then you have your Summon the Storm. If a friendly Bastion Carthalos is on, which again, it's so funny how they have to word this, but whatever, is on the battlefield and was not set up this turn, you can pick a friendly Stormcast Eternals unit that is in the Celestial Realm, so that you deployed in reserve. Effect, set up that unit wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Bastion Carthalos and more than 3 inches from all enemy units. If the target is a unit of Annihilators or the Annihilators with Grand Hammers, for the rest of the turn, the target counts as having used the Scions of the Storm ability for the purposes of the Blazing Impact ability. So Bastion can call them down basically at the edge of combat range.
Pretty good.
Man,
this is one of those
good.
armies where it's like, it reads when you think it's a meme army, but then all of a sudden you play it, and Karazai runs up the board, Bastion comes behind, the Annihilators come down, all the mortal wounds go off. Then you get charged, then Yundestra charges you, and because she's infantry, she can charge through again. Like,
Right.
you know, all of a sudden it's not so funny, because you're doing loads of damage. Karazai's in the middle of your army doing -1 attack on everything, just chewing stuff out. And Bastion swinging his hammer, all the Annihilators with Grand Hammers are in, and you think, I am getting memed.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's not actually as terrible as it reads. I mean, it's not going to win 5 games because battle tactics, objective scoring might not be a primary concern for this list.
Yeah.
But my God, is it going to look good on the table? And when you put your army out for painting, you're going to have all the best models displayed, right?
That's
It's
right.
gonna look
This is like
incredible.
every best model in Stormcast. Yeah, exactly.
And you could even double dragon here. It's incredible. Like, I think, but this is what I quite like. Getting back to Army of Renown construction, I quite like that you have this sort of approach because you couldn't do this in a regiment. It's different to what you can do in the book.
Right.
So if you want Hero Hammer, it's right here. You can do it, and it's legal, right? And it's got its own rules. This is the kind of space I'd like to see Army of Renowns. You know, really interesting spaces. That isn't just, oh, here's Ruination Chamber, but you could now basically break regiments and take Warrior Brother Chamber with stuff and, you know, just mix and match the best stuff because we, for some reason, didn't allow you to do that in the main book.
Right.
This is actually really fun, right? Take 2 dragons, Bastion, bring your Annihilators down from Dominion that you probably dust off from 2020 and just have a great time. Have a great weekend. Because every one of those units is fun to use and everyone has its unique war scroll.
Right.
Like, I watched Yundestra earlier throw a spear into Alario and kill her.
Amazing.
Incredible scenes. Like, and that's just one thing you could do in the weekend. You're not going to take this as a prime, though. That's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, this is this is fun. This is just fun written all over it. So just for the other things they have here, your heroic trait, who who I guess maybe you have someone to give this to, is that one to the attack characteristics of this unit's melee weapons while it's wholly within 6 inches of bastion. Okay, sure, why not? And your artifact is any combat phase ability that you get to pick an enemy unit in combat with to be the target, and on a 4-up, ward rolls cannot be made for the target for the rest of the battle. Just shattering
which is
them
great,
wards.
isn't it? Because you go, well, what's that Lord Arcanum doing? You're like, well, she's got the shield of Skarmadar. And you're like, what does that do? And you're like, well, I'm just going to roll dice now. And it doesn't roll forward. You go, it doesn't matter.
Don't worry about it. It's cool. It's cool. It makes me want, like, I would be tempted to take all the named heroes. Like, I have put together many Slanesh lists where I just don't take anybody who's not named, and I'm like, I don't care. All the heroic traits and artifacts are Garbo anyways. I don't need these. I'm just taking named people. And I would be almost tempted to do this here, but I just want to roll that word and scare the living crap out of people.
Because I was legit doing that. So before I changed my list, I was doing Bastion Karazai because they allowed any, right? And before the priority target change, which we didn't talk about before, but is a big change to Stormcast, because before you had a lot of War Master options that you were taking. So Karazai is probably the prime example.
Sure.
Now that it only affects him and an Honor Guard unit, I've moved my Raptors back in, my Paladors back in, because they don't have any buffs. Whereas previously, I had the Vanguard issue, like who was taking the Paladors. I didn't have a Vanguard hero, so I had to take Bastion, which is any Stormcast, so he could facilitate that. Now that they made that change, it unlocks a lot, because you push them into the regiment, and you can take a warrior hero in that second regiment, which unlocks a lot of the cav, right? And that's a big deal to Stormcast, to not have those 4 or 5 units be 2s shooting them, right, with your opposition.
Yep.
So I was also taking the named heroes, but now I'm not.
Yeah, I agreed on all accounts. Your spells and prayer, sorry, what you get here are like,
Get the comment?
Immortal Wound. Yeah, you get the... Yep, you sure do. I was going to make a joke of like, well, you get 2 spells and a prayer, and then for some reason they just forgot to give you a manifestation. That was the joke I was going to make, but yeah. Gee, I wondered what... Yeah, okay. At any rate, your spell lore is like a mortal damage kickback thing, which is fine. It's fine at best. Your other spell is actually an interesting one to come out of Krondus if you've got him, because he's not afraid to be close. It's like a very, very danger close thing for your wizard to be doing. But it's not a terrible spell, actually. Like 3 units, D3. Each unit is not bad. It's not some 2-up garbage. It just is straight D3 on 3 units, which is actually decently useful. Like 6 mortal wounds out of a spell isn't bad.
So he's doing that in your turn and theirs.
Right, exactly.
Which adds up. It's actually not a joke.
Yeah, no, agreed completely. I legitimately think it's a good spell, and it's great out of him because he's not afraid to be like danger close to them, right?
And it's not like one of those silly roll a D3 on a 3-up. You can do D3 mortal wounds. It's like you just do
exactly. It's just it just works if you get the spell off. It's just, and which he's going to easily do since this casts on a 6. It's great. And then your prayer is a perfectly fine plus 2 inches to move, and on a 6-up, very easy. You can literally unlock the higher version of it on 1 dice roll. You don't even have to like build points. On a 6-up, you get to pick 2 units that have plus 2 to move. Obviously, I think that in their minds they were thinking that this is Annihilators catching this, so that the Annihilators can actually move some distance. And sure, I'm sure that'll happen some. But I would just like to point out that the target for this can be any visible friendly Stormcast Eternals unit, including any of your heroes and or the big dragons or whatever. So, hey, faster move is good. Movement.
You're putting it on Industra, probably just sending her off to have a serious word with something bigger than her. Like so good on her.
Yep. So
and if you roll
there you
6
go.
Up, you get Karazai as well. So
absolutely.
But it's fun. I think that's a really fun Army of Renown. I think if you're playing that army, what a club game that would be.
Yes. Agreed completely. This is frankly, and I think the point you made that I want to agree with a lot and put a pin in is this is how they should be doing Armies of Renown, right? That's a good point, Branu. Like talking about throwing it on Bastion in the first turn so he can get to a point to drop Annihilators down and call them down. Sure, absolutely. It's got plenty of purposes. But this is the way I want to see them doing Armies of Renown, where it's like, oh, what a neat, unique, different, unusual build here, right? Um, I mentioned, where I started, and when we rolled over past um, into sixth edition, we started getting sixth edition books. That very famously had those alternative armies in the back, where you could like take the artillery train of Nuln or whatever, right? And it just gave you very different army construction rules. It allowed you to play a very different sort of weird game. And I loved that stuff. I felt like, oh cool, I can make my own thing, find my own little space. And I think these kind of armies do the same thing. Yes, they're usually not the competitive choice, and that's fine, by the by. I don't care. I just want to actually like build the army I want to build, and something like this lets me actually do that if this is the thing that grabs you.
And I could agree.
Arcturus Rex said, "Can't Bastion just go into the outhouse?" Yes, he could just be in the outhouse. That is correct. You could move him with the outhouse and then call them down. That does work.
Well, it says if he's not set up.
Yeah, he can't be set
up. They've caught that, but this for me is like an evolution of Spearhead, right? Like I play Spearhead, which they want you to do, and then I jump in with this Army of Renown, which all my rules are on one page. I can do all of that, and I can play my club games, and then you can get deeper into the wider tome, with the regiment system. So I would love to see more from Army of Renown like this, going forward, because the Skaven Army of Renown is different.
And that they're not good, I think is the word you're looking
but
for.
they're not even like here's 8 heroes, off you go sort of thing. It's just
sure. It's here's take all the worst models in the army and then kill them by using your own special rule. Boy, what a wonderful design. Yeah, I mean, all in all, I think there's been some negativity about this book online. I think Stormcast actually are in a pretty decent place. Yes, it's unfortunate that several of the new models aren't great, and you're not going to take them probably. Like, it just feels like such a miss all the time. But there are things that are really solid here. The Storm Coven is really good. Depending on points, the new Paladors could see some play if they point them correctly. Like, it's not a complete blank space, and at the same time, it's just that, as you said at the beginning, which is what we're saying now again, it's such a deep roster, right? That you really do have a lot of versatility in how you can construct. So, yeah, what's your final summation here? What are you thinking?
I think if you're a Stormcast player, you're pretty happy, right? Because there's a lot of options. Unfortunately, a lot newer models, but there's a lot of options in the book. Like you say, I think you've got to have a really good meta read if you want to play competitive play and have really competitive games against strong armies. You have to sort of be aware of what those armies are running, and take almost counters or hammers that can deal with them. You do have access to them. You just might not own them, which could be a problem because there's so many models. I think they do okay in the Magic game and the Prayer game. They do okay. They're not overly reliant on those facets of the game. They don't need Morbid to block people. I think for players new to the game, probably bought Skaven Tide, does a lot of it, plays in every phase, right? And it does well in that regard, and you get to make decent armor saves, which is nice. It's not overly complex. Like my hero phase is pretty quick. My movement phase is pretty straightforward. I move stuff, I bring stuff down, and then I shoot and I charge. So you can play relatively well within the time of a game, right? It's not sort of stressful Zinch. There's 100 options to go, and
right. And you're always trying to like maintain your murder castle and all of that. Yeah, and you got to be like really careful and thinking a couple of steps ahead all the time. Yeah.
It's one of the things I like when I play a tournament is I know I'm probably going to, on a Sunday, be playing very meaningful games. So it's like, what's my mental load like over the weekend? I don't want to be burnt out end of Saturday, because you probably play a tough game when you're 3-0 on Saturday. So when you go into Sunday, it can be quite taxing. I think Stormcast gives you a lot of time to sit back and think about what you want to do. It gives you time to sort of take a break during the game and reevaluate your turn or your strategy. So I think that's an important element of Stormcast that's not written down. And I cannot stress, whilst the battle traits don't sound incredible, Finest Hour is amazing.
It's so incredible. Oh my god. It doesn't read
well, but when you charge Karazhan with like +1 save, and he can just tank whatever's coming back, and he's pinned that unit that turn, and then in their turn they have to retreat. They're -1 attack, maybe -2 attack if your Praetors are in town. Like, it's really incredible. And it doesn't look it, but it adds a lot of value to units that are a bit undercosted sometimes, like Vanquishers, right?
Yep. Completely agreed.
Oh no.
You're good. You're still there.
Oh, okay. I think my PC's doing upload. But yeah, the Vanquishers I think are really strong because with Finest Hour, right, you wouldn't think it, but they all out attack, they're 2s, run 2 damage, 21 attacks. Little units like that with Finest Hour can do a lot of work. So I think overall, the army, I think it's definitely better than it was, but it's just a shame the Relation Chamber's probably not going to be a part of it.
Agreed.
And that for me is the biggest miss because I've always said this since I got into the hobby. Like when you see all the new models, when you see Visit Scour, all these models shown, you want to buy and paint them and collect them, and it can be quite demotivating when you read the rules. And it's not they have to be the best unit in the game; they're just not interesting. And if
Right.
all they do is roll a 4-up, ignore, and that rule in itself is still complicated, right? Because people don't know what non-core abilities are. They have to
That's
have
right.
a
They
list
don't
and
have it
go,
in their
well,
head where they can
what
just
is
be like,
that?
oh, that's a non-core ability, right? Yeah,
Yeah, but like,
exactly.
well, what is that? And then that can be complex in itself. And I would love to have seen them Ruination Chamber be completely different and written in a very different way. But that's not what we got. Maybe we get that in the next one. The models aren't going to go anywhere. The models are awesome. And I think overall, this is a very strong 4-1 army in any meta. And as long as the Longstrike Raptors are there, you've always got your go-to if you need to deal with a big bad. If you need that, it's there. And I think having that in your locker, which some armies just don't have it, right?
That's right.
Like for Visit Scour, I'm even scared this evening of like the Raptors, right? And models like that, you're really intimidating. So overall, really, really happy with it in terms of the variety. It's just not perhaps as sexy to run all the new models in an army that you'd like, given that you've probably owned the other chambers for quite a few years. And
I
some of
love
them
it.
are leaving. Which
It's
is,
a
for
good.
me, is the real big miss to sum it up at the end is, given the models that are leaving, you kind of wanted Ruination to be
Yeah,
strong,
to actually be strong and step in
to
and
pick
fill
that up
that
and
void.
go, we're sorry, but we still love you.
Yeah.
Okay, faithful. And the last one for me is that why doesn't Sigmar ever get involved? All the other
He's just
gods
chilling.
play. I'm just a question. Like, what's he doing up there? Because he chats in the box, doesn't he? He has a little chit chat with everybody around the altar, and it's like, why don't you just come out and hit some of the hammer? Like, is it that hard?
I think that last time he went out, he kind of had a bad situation, and so now he's just it's a PTSD thing, I suspect.
I know they took his hammer, but I think he got it back, right? But he
He
gave
got
it
it back,
away.
yeah. He gave it away.
Um, so I do. Well, I mean, they should make a model, right? Come on.
I mean, we can only dream of the day. Look, if we can have Giant Nagash walking around, why not the avatar of Sigmar, right? Like, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm here for it, and I'm ready for it. And I think when that does happen, it'll be incredible.
I I agree. I think that overall, I'm totally in line with everything you said as far as like your final points. And I would say we were already seeing a lot of good players get some pretty good results with Stormcast, and I think that's just honestly going to continue. It is a shame on Ruination, but hey, as you said, models are forever. Rules come and go. They're great models. They will eventually get there. Look how long it took for Fulminators to be like really good, and then
People are
they got
using
a whole
Paladors
edition of being
today.
good. Yeah,
Using Paladors right now. They've been out for
that's
six
right.
years.
That's right. Paladors for a long time were just kind of like a either okay or a snooze or just like maybe in the right hands. Now, man, Vanguard Paladors rule. They're fantastic. Like what a world.
I opened my Dominion box the other day and got my Knight Arcanum out. Look, see, you really can have it all. You just have to wait.
That's right. It just takes time sometimes. All right, for all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Give us your thoughts. What did we get wrong? What did we get right? What did you like? What do you like in the book? What didn't we talk about that you think is going to be a choice? And don't forget, put down in the comments your pick for the absolute worst war scroll in the book. Let's see it, folks. Drop it down below. What is the worst war scroll? The thing that will absolutely 0% be, or as close to that as possible, be taken. I
The
am.
Nightmaster. The answer is the Nightmaster.
It's.
Prove
I
me wrong
mean,
in the comments if it's not, but that's the correct answer.
yeah. But we'll see what people think. Boy, woof. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate it. Hit like, hit subscribe, do all those fun things that make all those dings on the way out. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel, lots of ways you can do so. As we said, thank you to all the super chatters. That was awesome. You can do all that stuff, but there's also down there are links for affiliates. You can hit all of that stuff up, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. Pick up your Stormcast painting supplies, save yourself some money, and support the channel at the same time. There's also, of course, our Patreon. focused on review and feedback and taking your next step on your hobby journey. Don't forget, Uncle Adam and I also make games, and if you're looking for some skirmish games, you can find all of those down there. Our new game is coming out, our new zine, sorry, is coming out next month, which will contain a new game in it, as well as support for all our old games. So we'll talk more about that soon. But hey, James, thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate it. This was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been amazing to be here, and it's great to see you.
It was good to see you. Anytime. Thank you all so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Next week will be an unusual show. I am traveling next week on the road at a big conference, so it'll kind of be a solo show with me just probably talking about some stuff. So tune in for like a cool, chill chat next week. But as always, I'll see you next Wednesday.